Good morning. Thanks so much for joining us on Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Matthew Alvarez.
And I'm Bobby McNeely. Happy Tuesday, January 7th. Of course, we saw yesterday the certification of President-elect Donald John Trump and his running mate, Vice President-elect J.D. Vance. And we are coming to you from beautiful Auburn, Alabama, while taking coverage into Mar-a-Lago for a press conference.
So good weather in the south. Of course, those of you watching in the northeast, not so much. A lot of snow out there. We'll be talking also about a couple other interesting stories involving MAGA and Greenland coming up. Also, of course, President Trump will be starting that press conference at 11 a.m. Eastern time, as we are 13 days from Inauguration Day, and Bobby, 12 days from that huge MAGA rally. I know Bobby will be there alongside some others at Right Side Broadcasting Network. So your thoughts about that? A huge rally in Washington, D.C. inside the Washington Capitol's arena. How awesome.
Well, it's a great stadium and a fitting thank you to those MAGA voters and the coalition that reelected President Trump to his second non-consecutive term. And, you know, he did do a celebration somewhat similar at the Lincoln Memorial, if you remember the great Toby Keith, the piano guys, all performing in a star-spangled bash, along with the Trump family coming out to the Battle Hymn of the Republic, actually performed by one of our beautiful Marine bands and the choir as well. So that was really quite nice as a precursor to the following day, Inauguration Day.
Exactly. So we're definitely looking forward to that. 13 days from January 20th, and of course, 12 days until that huge MAGA rally. So we're following a number of stories out there as well. Greenland, Donald Trump Jr. and Charlie Kirk and others are there right now on Truth Social. Charlie Kirk just posted that out. So quite interesting that President Trump is eyeing Greenland in some ways.
I think this is so smart for our geopolitical defense and really to protect North America as a result. When I was up in Anchorage, Alaska, in mainstream news, I actually learned a lot about how strategic Seward's Folly, as they called it, at the time of its purchase, was actually very smart against the USSR and the Soviets during Cold War tensions. And it continues to be with J-Bear and with just that geopolitical defense structure for our country. If you add Greenland to the mix, you then get to the other side, the Atlantic, and have that intact as well. And see, there's discussions happening right now with the Scottish freedom movement. You could have a situation where the United Kingdom in a few short months could simply be two countries, England and Wales, because you have this Irish Republican movement, not the same as the Republican Party here in America, trying to reunify the 6 counties that are Northern Ireland. You also have the Scottish freedom movement, which they had a referendum roughly a decade ago. That was not successful. Here's the problem. The UK has many of its bases in Scotland. So those waters that are patrolled up there, the Russians go through that. The Chinese will sometimes come over to the Atlantic to create espionage, to monitor what's happening in those waters. So Greenland, a huge strategic move for us, and I think the King of Denmark will enjoy the price tag.
Yeah, hopefully. And it's great that it's not a takeover. It's right. Just a business transaction. And speaking of that, we're hearing early reports that this press conference will be based on economic development. So we'll get into that in just a second. But let's stick to the international politics right now when it comes to Canada as well. Justin Trudeau stepping down just the other day, actually just yesterday. Interesting. You know, President Trump, when he meets with a world leader, they either get better or they get worse. And he got worse. He's out.
Well, I think it's the same situation here in America where woke is going broke. You have the Canadians who are losing money at this time. Of course, Prime Minister Trudeau, not the greatest businessman, wanting to implement many DEI factors into the federal government. And he will remain on until the Liberal Party now finds its next leader. He has instructed the president of the Liberal Party of Canada to make that selection, and upon that time, that new prime minister, having been selected, he will then step aside from his current role, and that might be a few weeks or months into President Trump's new administration. But to your point, Matthew, I think he realized in his own leadership skills or lack thereof that he was not willing to take on the juggernaut that is the Trump administration, especially when it comes to tariffs. And one of the biggest things that was contested during the first term of President Trump up against Prime Minister Trudeau was the factor of tariffs with our dairy farmers in Minnesota and Wisconsin, because our Canadian friends were taking advantage of our farmers for years and years, and President Trump said enough of that. And that was a huge benefit to the upper Midwest and dairy land, and a big factor as to why I think he won this re-election.
And a great pick, Brooke Rollins out of Texas to be the Secretary of Agriculture, the United States Secretary of Agriculture. So a great pick there. Among many others, we do know that some of the Senate committees will be held next week for Pam Bondi and Pete Hegseth for both the AG and DOD secretary positions. So that will be coming up. Also, let's go to Arizona right now. Congressman Andy Biggs, he says the Laken-Riley Act, which the House will be voting on today, ensures that illegal aliens are detained and deported before they brutally murder Americans. So he says this isn't a partisan issue, but those on the left will continue to prioritize political correctness over American lives. So hopefully this will pass today.
Certain things, Matthew, I think are so important in the first few weeks, and it's namely protecting our children. So first and foremost, securing that border, enacting Operation Aurora. We're expecting to see that from President Trump right after he is sworn in. Also canceling, he has promised on True Social, many of the Biden executive orders that have happened in recent days. In addition to that, perhaps we'll see some work with what will happen at the Department of Education as well in regards to DEI and the transgender movement that you see in our public schools. So maybe there will be some room for bipartisan consensus, and we hope, with Mr. Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader, speaking last Friday when they took the speaker vote, that he is at least willing to work with Speaker Johnson, and they seem to have a very respectful relationship at this point.
And in that speech, Speaker Johnson kind of chuckled and joked that Hakeem will help him work on getting that wall rebuilt,
right.
Or not rebuilt, but at least installed throughout our southern border. So we're hoping to see this happen, of course, as we look to see the reform of our country through those 20 core promises that we all have talked about here extensively at the network. We look forward to seeing everything from sealing the border to defending our Constitution and on to happen here in the country. You're looking at a live picture there from our camera at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida. Once again, Matthew Alvarez alongside the great Bobby McNeely. I usually say brilliant Bobby McNeely, but make America great again sounds good too.
Well, I always call you the magnificent Matthew Alvarez, and that is very true, and it's a pleasure to be with you here in beautiful Auburn, Alabama, perhaps the greatest college town in all of the land.
Well, you're going to get a lot of emails about that one.
That's true.
It is a great, great college town. Awesome football and basketball and other sports here in Auburn, and a great university. All right, so again, Mar-a-Lago on the left side of your screen there. As soon as President Trump takes that podium, we will go there live. We'll have the entire press conference from start to finish here. This is the pre-show coverage, once again, on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Let's tone it down for a quick second, talk about Christmas and New Year's over the holidays. How was yours?
It was really wonderful. I got to sing at a church I used to sing at, really growing up, and then some of my professional singing career spent time there. But dear friends with the priest, the pastor over there, and the great music director, Nick Thomas. He is one of the best just outside of Chicago, a sought-after organist and composer and a brilliant musician in his own right. So always good to see friends and family, of course. So I have family in the Chicago area and to spend time with them. And we do this tradition of the Feast of the Seven Fishes, the Italian side of me, although you all know that I'm very Irish.
McNeely.
But Christmas, naturally. But Christmas Eve is a great Italian feast of the tradition was in southern Italy, roughly 7 fishes, and then as the Italians come over to the New World, if you will, but this is roughly the turn of the century, a lot of them are working in fish markets, whether that's New Jersey, New York, even in Chicago. So as they work, they would be able to receive some of that fish as a Christmas gift from their employer, so it became more or less abundant. And it is an evening where tradition, they abstain from meat and then enjoy the red meat and such come Christmas Day and the birth of our Savior Jesus. Also, a great Italian tradition, we rock the bambino to sleep. So the priest, Father DeSalvo, has this beautiful crib, and it actually has a sliver of the manger. So it's a relic, and it's really a beautiful kind of fun tradition. somewhat strange if you have not heard about it, but it's a nice little thing to do after midnight mass.
That's what's cool about learning about the country, right?
Right?
Different parts of the country and how things are, traditions and things are practiced. You also went to a Chicago Blackhawks game at Wrigley Field, which was pretty awesome.
The Winter Classic. It's something if you enjoy cold weather, or even if you don't, but you like hockey, something not to be missed, because they go out to these famous outdoor stadiums and have really how these guys grew up playing hockey, whether it be in Canada, here in the United States, or even our European friends over in Norway, Sweden, Finland. You find a lot of them playing hockey naturally. It's pretty much their national sport. So really a wonderful time.
If you're just joining us now, we're not talking only sports here at Right Side. We were just covering over the past couple weeks with a lot of news going on, of course. We'll get to that as well. We just started this broadcast about 15 minutes ago here on Right Side. We do know that Mar-a-Lago there will be the site of President Trump's press conference. And Director, just want to let you know that Bobby's IFB is not working. So we're going to go to All Family Pharma, and you can take it away for that one.
I love the Family Pharma. So this is a very exciting new group that we have sponsoring us here at Right Side Broadcasting. And Matthew, you've seen in the news now, we have bird flu taking place. There is one case in the United States. There is also the HMPV virus out of China. This is interesting that in recent years, things are coming more and more out of China. But if you've been keeping up with any media lately, there's a new virus going around, and that is the HMPV virus in China. And if we learned anything in the last few years, it's the fact that we need to be proactive. It's the best way to take care of ourselves in these very scary times. You need to protect your family, but here's the catch. Finding a reliable place to get medications like ivermectin is not easy because of our bloated bureaucracy that we have in Washington, D.C. that's protecting really a medical class, and that's where All Family Pharmacy comes in. You can get this ivermectin 10% off, code RSBN 10. Very easy to remember, RSBN 10, allfamilypharma.com/RSBN. Take care of you, take care of your family, your prescription needs, and then you don't have to rely on any big government involvement.
Exactly. I mean, ivermectin, not always easy to get a hold of. With this group right here, allfamilypharma.com, you can get that ivermectin. But also, there are more than 200 medications with this company. So this is a great company right here. To your point about the HMPV, so it looks like it's human metapneumovirus virus. All right. So officials in China said they are monitoring the cases of HMPV. I just read an article yesterday in the USA Today saying there's an uptick of that. So this is something right now that is great to look into and also purchase right there using that RSBN 10 promo code. Of course, you can get ivermectin and others right there at allfamilypharma.com/RSBN, a great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. All right, moving on to looking at some of the information coming up for the inauguration as we get ready to go to Palm Beach, Florida for the press conference today, which will start in just a bit over an hour from now. But you never know. President Trump sometimes will take that podium a bit early, maybe a few minutes after, or maybe right on time. But we'll be here for it right on Right Side Broadcasting Network. So let's go over some of January 20th. All right, so we know at 12 o'clock, the swearing-in ceremony and speech will be outside the Capitol. They'll take place at 12. I know that you'll be there. First of all, what will that be like for you? What are you looking forward to?
Well, I have personally not seen an inauguration. So I'm very excited. I've only watched it on TV, but this will be several days of coverage. We're hoping to get into some exciting venues to see that, not just the rally itself, but the actual inauguration. And it's such a beautiful tradition of nearly 250 years, as we know. That oath that is taken, very similar to any office you're about to enter into the United States. You have to swear upon your state constitution. If it's solely a federal office, of course, our federal constitution. Some have done that better than others in the past, as we know from history's lens. But they speak the words that George Washington invoked. That was not required, still not required, but has become tradition of "So help me God." The humble nature of our first president and truly the founder of our country living on all of these years as they put their hand on their either family Bible or a specific Bible that has meant a lot to them. We know that Vice President Mike Pence actually swore his oath not only on a family Bible, but on Ronald Reagan's Bible. So you see with the tradition that we have here in America, we can have these moments where leaders, as they ascend into such important roles for the country, can use these items that meant a lot to our past leaders as well.
Well, we look forward to hearing President Trump talk about recite the oath of office. The oath, of course, specified in Article 2, Section 1, Clause 8 of the U.S. Constitution. Why not go over it? Because we're going to be looking forward to hearing President Trump say the following words. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. And the roar of the crowd, we can just hear it already, even though we're 14 days away from it, 13 actually, from that oath.
A very special moment, and in recent inaugurations, it's always interesting if they have been senators before presidents. We know that former President Barack Obama swore that oath and allegiance with Chief Justice Roberts, who he voted against in the Senate when he was appointed by then President George W. Bush. So it makes for an interesting drama, if you will, of the different branches and this great experiment that our founders put together of a constitutional republic equally broken into three different branches of legislative, executive, and judicial. And we're seeing really a rivalry happening in the last few years in the modern era, but it's debatable. Do we have this extreme presidency or almost totalitarian presidency, or do we really have a broken branch of the legislative? Have the courts kept us together? Everyone has different perspectives on this, but we see this playing out on a regular basis, and I'm sure we'll see this as it evolves here with the 119th Congress and, of course, the 47th and 50th 47th President of the United States and 50th Vice President of the United States swearing their oath on January 20th.
Speaking of 47, Trump Force 47 landing in Greenland today. President Trump not on board. He's going to be at Mar-a-Lago, but his son Don Jr. is and just arrived to Greenland. If you look on President Trump's Truth Social, 11 minutes ago, he said, Don Jr. and my reps landing in Greenland. The reception has been great. They and the free world need safety, security, strength, and peace. This is a deal that must happen. MAGA, make Greenland great again. So MGGA there. So, President Trump is not joking around. It looks like he's very serious about acquiring and through a business transaction, Greenland.
He's been very passionate about this, and it's interesting because he will use comedy at times to get his point across. For example, we love Canada to be the 51st state, and we love Governor Trudeau, and he's clearly making that point of, I will be tough with tariffs. But in this situation, I believe what he saw militarily and with the threats around the world, this will be crucial to protecting the United States and our interests abroad. And now with Don Jr. visiting, that's really serious. And we are thankful for the family who have been so involved in this process. If it wasn't for Don Jr. really advising this campaign, or even Barron suggesting, Dad, maybe go on these podcasts. You'll reach out to the younger generation and to TikTok and things of that nature. It really has helped spur not only a re-election, but also policy. So it's neat to see the family so involved.
And speaking of elections, I guess since Justin Trudeau just stepped down as the Prime Minister of Canada, there will be a new one there, of course, to the north of the border. And there's some joking about that as well, acquiring Canada. I mean, at the end of the day, at least this is, well, not at least, but I'm glad this isn't a takeover. This is not a hostile takeover of Greenland. This is simply a business transaction. This is the right way to do things if you're going to acquire a land. So anyway, we'll be following the latest right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Once again, Matthew Alvarez alongside the brilliant Bobby McNeely here in studio, of course, and joining Right Side Broadcasting Network, joining us full-time, started yesterday full-time right here at Right Side. So it's awesome to have you here. And all of your experience and knowledge when it comes to the conservative movement is awesome to have.
Well, it's been an honor to be with you, Matthew, the magnificent Matthew Alvarez, and with this extraordinary team here at Right Side Broadcasting. And it has been a unique experience in my career from mainstream news, but also working with great institutions like Turning Point USA and Truth Social, and really some of that was spurred from what happened with COVID and the fight for free speech online. If you look simply 4 years ago, President Trump banned from Facebook, even this network at times, banned from YouTube, or the shadow bans, the cancellations of so many different right-leaning, libertarian, conservative outlets throughout America and individuals. And now 4 years later, we fought back peacefully and patriotically. And now this whole new media era of getting this content out to you, sharing the truth, it's truly an honor to be here with you.
Exactly. It's awesome to have you. And also, to your point, Rumble, YouTube, Truth Social, our website, our app, we have so many ways to have you watch the coverage here. Now, we're talking live events. I mean, of course, we've been covering that since 2015. Joe Seals with that great idea to cover all of the rallies when it comes to seeing the crowd, hearing the speeches. You need to hear that stuff, especially when it's coming from a presidential candidate at the time. So all the way till now, of course, I was just going to say 2024, but we are now in, of course, 2025. And glad you're with us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. It is about the top of the hour, a few minutes away from that, as we await President Trump to take that podium there. We'll have that live coverage for you. Looking forward to hearing from President Trump, and also looking forward to 12 days from now, which is the day before the inauguration, the MAGA rally, and then the next day, the afternoon, as soon as that clock strikes 12, President Trump, the 47th Commander-in-Chief, Bobby.
I wonder if he's going to bring that beautiful harpsichord behind him to the White House. And I've never heard that played at Mar-a-Lago. I'd love to see that sometime. Maybe there is a harpsichordist that they have play that regularly.
That's awesome. I mean, it's a beautiful room there as well. And we're hearing that there are various people that will be singing either God Bless America or the national anthem as well. So looking forward to that day, the 20th. Hopefully it'll be a beautiful blue sky day. You know, maybe we'll get 55 degrees up there in D.C. You never know. But I know right now, not so much. A lot of snow in that region of the Northeast and all across the Northeast there. So my mother-in-law and father-in-law actually just sent me some photos from Pennsylvania in that area with, I think it's 8 to 9 inches of snow. I have to double check the numbers. But, you know, down here in the South, we don't see it as much.
We don't see it as much. And you actually had shared the holidays as well with your wonderful family.
Exactly. So I think we watched about 25 movies. Not all Christmas movies, but I mean, it was just movie after movie. A lot of cookies as well, a lot of eating, but really monitoring what's going on in the world as well. So it was a great time with family. My wife and I just had a baby daughter. She's only 3 months old. And I'll tell you, man, Bobby, when she smiles in your face, it's just the cutest thing ever. So yeah, we're blessed and thankful. But back to the business here as we are getting ready for President Trump there. It's going to be great to hear him talk about what we're hearing is the economic development. And do we not need that in this country?
No question about it. You know, it's really the steel manufacturing. It's very sad to see that President Biden actually canceled a deal where a Japanese company was going to come into South Carolina, some work in Michigan as well, and really enhance our steel markets. That's hugely crucial, not only for manufacturing, but for our national security and for us to once again be the true exporters like we once were in that World War II era and post that as well. So we really are one of the largest countries in the world and most talented countries in the world with so many different industries. And we can spur this once again with President Trump's leadership. You see great car manufacturers like BMW having major plants in South Carolina. You see our big, great factories being reopened to do that business. Simply because other countries did not hit an industrial revolution as fast as we did does not mean we need a Green New Deal to go fund China and India and other countries that really are playing catch up with us. So, of course, President Trump, behind Make America Great Again, is America First.
Exactly, and that's part of those 20 core promises to the American people, and we're not going to let go of that here at the network because these are the promises to we the people, and why would we let go of that? These are beautiful 20 promises to the American people, including the fact of making us the dominant energy producer in the world by far, and so many things with the economy. So it would be interesting to hear today if President Trump speaks about Greenland today from more of a authoritative presidential way, then you really, really know that he means business with this. I mean, he just posted about it on Truth Social. But before we get to that, let's go to one of our great sponsors, as it's time to celebrate the golden age of America with Republican Red Winery's iconic wines, whether you prefer white, red, or sparkling. I was going to say white, red, or blue, but you know. Anyway, so go to republicanred.com, use that RSBN discount code right there for some great wines. You see the 45 to 47 and others there exclusively at republicanred.com. It's a family-run operation dedicated to preserving conservative values. In fact, sale proceeds are used to fund Republican and conservative organizations across the country. So you can have a sip of vino, and you're also helping out other organizations across the nation as well. So time to celebrate again the golden age of America right there. republicanred.com, a great sponsor at Right Side Broadcasting Network. All right, so we know that coming up on Thursday will be our final episode of The Road to 47. Bobby will be here with me as we bring you that last episode. We're going to go over some of the best interviews we've had. I mean, a lot of them were really good, but some of the big names like Tommy Tuberville or Eli Crane, maybe we'll have Ben Carson again. So, and others out there, just, you know, to talk about how close we really are. Finally, you know, we were on the campaign trail. I know you were a lot, along with many of you that other hosts at Right Side were out there. But now that we're only 14 days away, it's got to feel good.
Oh, it really does. You know, we're on the precipice of a golden era. Truly, President Trump wants to make America great again. And it sounds rather simple, but just look at some of his cabinet picks. I think these people who are really walking away from, you know, lucrative salaries, perhaps, you know, even less stressful jobs. I think about the onslaught that Pete Hegseth has received simply for wanting to be the chief over at the Department of Defense, the DOD, and he has that expertise. It's now these people who served so valiantly in Iraq and Afghanistan and truly know the military-industrial complex and how to serve our soldiers and those who freely choose to go and defend us rather than a bloated Pentagon bureaucracy. Because as President Trump has talked about, you have the real generals like Raisin Cain who told him, sir, we have to take care of this ISIS problem, and they took care of it in 3 months. You saw the difference in leadership between the Biden-Obama failures and really leading with an America First agenda, especially when it comes to our military. And that's what's so sad too, even with the recent terrible terrorist attacks, and our thoughts and prayers are out there with family members and people who have lost loved ones as a result from simply celebrating the new year. These people that committed these acts were military veterans. So it's something that I know Pete Hegseth is very passionate about, not only fighting radical Islamic terrorism, but getting the mental health needed for our vets and PTSD. It's such a serious thing. We should not have so many homeless veterans on the streets of America.
Exactly, and to the victims lost, one of them out of Auburn, Alabama, actually, Drew Dauphin, he was part of a fraternity at Auburn University, was down there to see a Billy Strings concert. His brother purchased a gift for him, so he was down there to see that concert, and one of the victims there in New Orleans. So we know that this is a very serious time in our country, and that's what President Trump is about. He's going to take care of business. That's why you saw Tom Homan. How about that speech, Bobby? Remember at AmFest? What was that like? You remember when he was just so passionate about taking care of business for the American people?
Well, it's so genuine and it's so heartfelt, and we reflect a lot about the fact that you have so many people, covering whether it be sports or politics, simply reiterating talking points and not truly feeling and knowing what's important to protecting the American people and or the culture. Tom Homan is a man who's been there. He's worked under 6 different presidents. He's seen it firsthand. He's seen these children and spoken to family members who have been torn apart and terrible atrocities that are committed on the track and the trail to our southern border. He does not want to see people suffering. And as a husband and father, I think that's really his drive here and his expertise. He's a law enforcement professional through and through, an ethical man, and there will be nothing to stop him. And you know what? The law is on his side. And the biggest one is Section 8 of U.S. Code 1324. If you harbor an illegal alien, it is at least a 1-year penalty and a felony. So it doesn't matter if you're an elected official. We're all equal under the law. If you stay in the way, if you stand in their way, then you might be facing jail time.
Exactly. And so Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs just today on Truth Social saying the Laken-Riley Act, which will be voting on in the House today, ensures that illegal aliens are detained and deported before they brutally murder Americans. He says that this isn't a partisan issue, but those on the left will continue to prioritize political correctness over American lives. So that Laken-Riley Act to be voted on in the House chamber today. And speaking of the House chamber, just yesterday, the certification of Donald Trump right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. What a time.
An exciting moment. And if you're a real follower and lover of the political process, it's always interesting to watch when a ticket does not succeed, but that person on that ticket is overseeing that in her role as president of the Senate. That, of course, falls onto the vice president of the United States, really in a formal role to certify those numbers. And of course, it's somewhat of a gesture, but as we saw 4 years ago, there were serious concerns. And Senator Cruz, among other House members, were asking to send those back to the states to, again, fix process, because so much has happened in that time. And of course, we know with things like Pennsylvania, which they seem to be fixing things as we're going along here. But of course, you have a court that decided to extend voting by 72 hours back in 2020. They can't do that per the Constitution. As Article 2, Section 2 talks about this, that it's the state legislatures who set the dates, time, standards of elections. And the great Mark Levin has covered that extensively. But now we saw how smooth things can be, and we hope that continues to be, as this was a landslide victory in the popular vote and the Electoral College, and the largest win for a Republican since 1988, and that was, of course, then Vice President Bush 41, who became president of the United States.
I mean, so President Trump winning the trifecta. So we won the Congress, the House, the presidency, the popular vote, and also have a conservative edge in the Supreme Court. So things are looking good on paper.
Right.
And there's a lot of paper that will be signed by President Trump on day 1 and day 2. I'll tell you, those 72 hours, right when he is sworn in, from that point on, those 72 hours will be probably the most news done in the sense of positive things done for this country in that time period. I mean, think about the amount of he's got a whole list ready to go.
And he can, because there's certain things like the border that can be done in an executive manner that does not need legislative eyes, and that is simply sealing that border and then authorizing Operation Aurora as the commander-in-chief. You will have really a combination of great organizations like the Border Patrol, ICE, perhaps some military as well, even National Guard, who will be along that border to protect the border. I mean, if you're along Texas or even Arizona, cartels run these borders. They are really fearless, and we've had Trende Aragua, we've had MS-13 who have committed such heinous acts of murder throughout the country, especially recently in the great volunteer state of Tennessee. We don't want to see this anymore, and it will fall upon the Trump administration to get this done. And because we know prior what they did in the first term, this will only be enhanced and only be more effective as a result.
So we know the border will be taken care of within that 72 hours in the sense of everything enacted, right? I mean, it'll be game on. Mm-hmm. You know, Tom Homan and the crew, they're ready to go. From there, J6, the pardons will be happening, I believe, within that 72 hours as well. I don't know the number of who will be pardoned, but we know that was a Fedsurrection. Let's just be honest.
Right.
That's what happened on J6. It was supposed to be peacefully and patriotically, Bobby, right?
Exactly. And this is really sad, because regardless of any act you commit, if you are charged with something, first of all, you need to know the charges. Second of all, you are insured to a speedy trial. We're seeing less and less of that in America, and this was really a stalwart for our founding fathers because the English Empire did not grant these individual rights. That's why we have the 10 Bill of Rights put into our Constitution, that regardless of who's in power, you are bestowed by your Creator these certain inalienable rights. And one of them is to have counsel and also to have the speedy trial of your peers, of a judge, if you so choose, and you are presumed innocent until guilty. These J6 prisoners really have been political prisoners, and there have been some wonderful documentaries that have really dived into this, deep into the solitary confinement, not being able to see family members, just terrible situations. And we have some prisons here, even where President Trump was fingerprinted, the Fulton County Jail in Atlanta, almost third world in nature of people who have had, and this is not related to January 6th, but simply waiting trial and have died in these prisons because of either gang activity or, not to be gross, but there was a gentleman who was waiting his murder conviction, and he was literally eaten alive by bedbugs. But you have DAs like Fani Willis who have been disbarred. They have had their cases thrown out because it's simple lawfare. And of course we have Judge Merchan now who's going to follow through with these 34 counts in the Stormy Daniels case that are non-binding, that are simply, there will not be a sentence, there will not be a follow-through. It's simply to make a headline. And it's so sad to see a mockery of the justice system.
Exactly. Lawfare, so-called, continues on Friday for that virtual sentencing, which President Trump will not receive any jail time from that. He didn't do anything wrong, let's be real. I mean, at the end of the day, it's lawfare. We know what the left has been up to, but at the end of the day, the truth is winning. And that's what's happening.
It is. And even on True Social, he posted there's a pesky little letter from Stormy Daniels regarding that the affair, the alleged affair, never happened now. And she has signed that. That's her signature. So an interesting case, to say the least. She was actually ordered by another judge years prior to return the NDA money to President Trump. So we'll see as that goes on. But this is Teflon Don. He is a man for this time who did not need to take on this role, who could have said, you know what, I was president. I showed the way for Republican governance and how to keep small government in the purview and also common sense government. But instead he said, you know what, this is absolutely nutty what's happened under Biden and the Obama regimes, and I need to come back and serve my country. And we're so grateful that he's done this in this point of his life. And he would joke around on the campaign trail. Something that really stuck out for me was, I could be sitting on the beach, letting the sand and the wind hit me in the hair, maybe some water, that beautiful salt water with, you know, a nice drink in my hand, of course, a non-alcoholic drink. And he'd make jokes about just enjoying retirement.
Right.
He said, I'd rather be here with you and wherever it was, and especially like Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where it got a little nippy on the campaign trail.
Yeah, and a little bit cold as well up there in Washington, D.C. But in Mar-a-Lago today, of course, at the house there in Palm Beach. So we know, President Trump is getting ready to take that podium there soon. Again, I'm Matthew Alvarez alongside Bobby McNeely. And Bobby, one of our sponsors, All Family Pharma.
Yes, it is such a wonderful new sponsor that we have here at Right Side Broadcasting. And we have to be careful. You might have heard reports of this HMPV virus coming out of China, of all places. We've seen this become somewhat of a regular story in recent years, but also the bird flu. There's one case now that is confirmed in the United States. But with ivermectin in high demand and this new virus like HMPV emerging, the reality is clear, and we don't know what's coming next. So protect your family, but we do know it's better to be prepared than not prepared and to scramble when it's just too late. Get ivermectin with this wonderful allfamilypharma.com/RSBN. Code RSBN10, that's RSBN10 on your screen. Receive 10% off. The All Family Pharmacy is here to make it simple and stress-free for you and your family. They handle everything from the prescription to the shipping, so you don't have to worry about all the hassle that comes from bloated bureaucracy and going through loopholes. And our mailing system hasn't been the greatest under the Biden administration. Of all things, you think you receive your mail on time, but that doesn't seem to be happening, and thank God we're only 13 days away from the new administration. but you will receive this high-quality ivermectin and medication just 2 to 4 days. Plus, with over 200 medications, you can get just about everything in one place. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. That code again, RSBN10, for you, for your family. Just, it's good to be prepared.
Exactly, and we're not just saying HMPV because we know that's part of a script here. This is actually something, if you go to Google or DuckDuckGo and type in HMPV, you're going to see that cases are on the rise out there. Just saw an article yesterday from the USA Today. So ivermectin and other medications right there you can see at allfamilypharma.com/RSBN. All right, so it is 10:15 here on the East Coast. We're getting ready to go to Palm Beach, Florida. For Bobby McNeely, I'm Matthew Alvarez. We'll be right back here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving us with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss. I'm going to make it your gain. For the first time ever, you get standard classic MyPillows for wholesale prices, only $14.88. I can't believe I'm even saying that. Only $14.88. But it gets even better. For a limited time, I'm going to offer my entire classic collection at wholesale prices. Upgrade to a queen-size MyPillow for just $18.88. King size only $1 more. Get my body pillows for $29.88 and multi-use MyPillows for only $9.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on the screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of wholesale pricing for the first time ever on TV, including my standard size MyPillow, only $14.88. They've never been offered this low before. We have limited quantities at this price, so limit's going to be 10, and once they're gone, they're gone.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Good morning. Welcome back to live coverage here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Bobby McNeely, Matthew Alvarez here as we get ready to go to Florida for President Trump's, I believe this is his second press conference since winning on November 5th.
Yes, and from the beautiful Mar-a-Lago estate, of course, it was envisioned to be a presidential retreat. And the late Jimmy Carter, our thoughts and prayers also with the Carter family, as we'll be celebrating his life and legacy in the coming days, as well as President Trump joining in those celebrations, was someone who actually helped to see that the U.S. government would not have Mar-a-Lago anymore. And it went through different hands, finally into a bank arrangement and settlement. And President Trump found that advantage and saw, you know what, I need that property down there. And now it's his. And now again, a presidential retreat. So how nice is that?
It is awesome. And we're looking forward to hearing from the soon-to-be 47th President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump. Of course, we're thanking you guys, of course, for watching. We'll be bringing you that entire live press conference right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. And a quick shout out to you guys again. Those of you that watched on that November 5th election, more than 5 million viewers right here on RSBN. So pretty awesome stuff, Bobby.
We're honored to be your election headquarters and now your live desk for all the action as we go into a new administration come 13 days from now. We'd like to thank our great sponsors, and we have an outstanding new one to help protect you and your family in the flu season and also with the wild viruses that are out there. You've probably heard about bird flu, now a confirmed case here in the United States, but there's another one out of China. HMPV. This virus has been going around throughout China. It's really pretty terrible. And that's a big reminder that the unexpected can happen at any time for you and your family. And for those wondering where you can find reliable medications like ivermectin, let me tell you about the All Family Pharmacy. That's All Family Pharmacy, or allfamilypharma.com/RSBN. The 10% off code RSBN10. It's RSBN10. Very easy to remember. 10% off these ivermectin tablets, which will help you through any crisis. They've got you covered. They handle the prescription for you, ship high-quality medications. In fact, over 200 medications straight to your door in just 2 to 4 days. These are the best. These are the pros. You want to go to allfamilypharma.com/RSBN. Use that code RSBN10 today, and really don't hesitate in the new year, because we've seen what's happened with bacterias and viral infections, especially in the last few years. So don't get behind on this.
Exactly. Being proactive is the name of the game, to your point, Bobby. And that article that I saw recently, it was just last night, and I saw this great sponsor, and I said, well, let me look it up. I want to see that they're talking about HMPV, and I'm like, typed it in, and it was an article by the USA Today. It said 39 minutes ago, and how there's an uptick of this happening. So not only that, ivermectin is a great prescription, a great medication. Obviously, you have to consult your doctor and all that, and you have to see the information there at the website. But when you have something like that and you can get it easily instead of working through all of this extra tape,
right,
it's always good to just go to allfamilypharma.com and then use that RSBN promo code to get it. So ivermectin, plus, as you mentioned, there are more than 200 medications, right?
Over 200, so you can really go and peruse on this website. I actually looked over it a bit last night, and again, like with most of our sponsors, I think I will be prescribing myself.
Exactly.
Because it is, we have some very quality sponsors here that really are committed to making great quality products here in America, hiring veterans, and then you know your money's also not going to woke DEI nonsense. And actually, a lot of the times, these woke DEI places really just don't have good products to begin with. So why not go with the pros and the experts? And that's what's been so great about this movement, especially the last, I would say, the more recent time of it, even though it's been a decade of MAGA, really the last 4 years of people boldly going out and saying, you know, I'm not going to put up with the nonsense anymore. I mean, in fact, if you remember the spa owner, and her name is escaping me at the moment, but she was in the Dallas area. Remember, she kept her salon open to do haircuts, facials, etc., and she was ultimately arrested. She just ran for the Texas state legislature and won a seat. So we're seeing so many brave new patriots who have come out just to say, wow, I was not involved in the due diligence of watching over my country, but because this happened, it opened my eyes. And they've decided to step up instead of retreating. And that's just an amazing thing to see in the American experiment.
Exactly. So you go woke, you go broke. We know that
right.
to be the line there. And also, being bought and paid for is one of the worst things I think any politician can do, or any network. And so it's great to be free from any kind of agenda that is anti everything we just voted for on November 5th. Isn't it great to have that freedom, Bobby?
Oh, it's wonderful. And that's why we're so thankful for the SEALs and the leadership here at Right Side Broadcasting, because I can remember in my mainstream days, and nothing negative to that last position, because it was really wonderful to cover local politics in Anchorage, Alaska, of all places. But I remember this one time I did an interview, and someone started talking about their faith, and it's a very beautiful religious community in Anchorage, many diverse beliefs and backgrounds in Anchorage, and it was interesting because they wanted me to go away from that. But I thought, well, this is interesting because the person I'm interviewing is bringing it up, so why would we not talk about what had molded them as, a citizen of our great country? So we can do that here at Right Side and talk about those things that really matter: faith, family, God, country, and the beautiful patriotism. And of course, you see that backdrop of two wonderful American flags, where the future president will be addressing probably on things like Greenland and Operation Aurora and different agenda items that he's really looking forward to getting back in the office.
Exactly. We're hearing reports as well of economic development. So we'll hear from President Trump directly here soon. And then, of course, if he takes questions, last time he took some questions, there was a leftist reporter asking some ridiculous question about the Middle East, and President Trump had to shut him down. You know, they try and steer something to an agenda that is so opposite of America first and safety and peace through strength. They just like try to needle it, but you know, President Trump, he's been there before. He knows how to handle those guys.
Well, and this is what's special about a network like Right Side Broadcasting. We have long form, dive deep into policy issues, and really let you, the viewers, decide for yourselves, because when we were at these rallies, we got to talk to every American who wanted to be part of a movement from so many different backgrounds. I mean, the college students really stuck out for me when those rallies happened to be like East Carolina University, and they jump in the camera and say, "Hey, Professor so-and-so, I'm here today because I'll write a paper about it too, but that's why I'm skipping class," because they wanted to experience a wonderful moment in American history. And I think that's the difference with this president. He is a man of the people. He is a man of the culture. He's a man who will comment on things like, even during his apprentice days. Remember when he was commenting on Robert Pattinson's relationship because he had an opinion about it, and he made his statement and his views known. And I think that's someone he's never backed down from the arena. He truly is the man in the arena for this moment.
And all about we the people. President Trump, we know that to be true. And of course, here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, we are we the people as well. So We're right here with you guys. And it's time to celebrate the golden age of America with Republican Red Winery, another great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. All you have to do is go to that website you see there, republicanred.com. Use that RSBN discount code and look at all the variety of wines there, Bobby. I mean, we're talking reds and whites, of course, and or sparkling if you'd like. Use the RSBN promo code for a discount. And yeah, have a little bit of vino if you'd like to celebrate the golden age, and maybe get that bottle all the way in the right. Looks kind of gold to me, but definitely go to republicanred.com, a great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. It is about the bottom of the hour, 10:30 Eastern on this Tuesday. You know, I was looking at this other article right here, so I know that it's Tuesday, January 7th, 2025. You know, over the break, let's be honest, how many times was it, maybe on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, you think it's a Thursday, you think it's a Friday, but I don't know. At least
almost as if
we have a newborn at the house, so we have an excuse.
Oh, you have a great excuse for it, because it's nice to have that time slow down, and you know, the news cycle does not slow down in the process, and these 2 weeks have been really interesting in American life. And again, you see this juxtaposition of, will we choose to be a big bloated bureaucracy, or will we choose to be freedom-loving, we the people, Constitution-abiding citizens? Are we living in a post-constitutional era? This is a unique moment because, as I reflected with folks back in the Chicago area and during some of my travels during the time off, it was the sense of relief, or the sense of, I met with a gentleman actually living here in Auburn who has a very interesting career, but told me he's a traditional liberal. We just got to talking at the airport, and he said that I actually voted for Donald Trump. And that was the first time I voted for a Republican in any office, because the DEI, the woke, the Kamala Harris version of the Democrat Party is not who I am. I'm, you know, someone who came from the trades, who came from using his hands, had a job since he was 14. His dad, a big union member, and that's why I think you see with President Trump and his cabinet picks, it's this big tent, this inclusive nature of bringing everyone to the table and being that deal maker and that great business leader, and someone you hope to have as a CEO or a CFO who asks questions, who literally puts himself in your shoes and brings experts around. There are many occasions. See President Trump, even in his entertainment days of The Apprentice, tell me about this because I don't know about this. I'm interested in this. He'll ask questions, and that's why you see so many wonderful people, professionals surrounding his cabinet.
And to your point, a Democrat voting for President Trump, this election was an election of core values, of the core of a person. They really saw what was happening in this country. They saw what they were trying to do to President Trump and to we the people, and they had to really make that decision. It was really, and as you guys maybe remember, I kept saying it's a fork in the road. It's a fork in the road we're facing. And you mentioned that too. And we know that we made the right turn and made the right decision for our country. So looking forward to seeing these 20 core promises, speaking of core, happen for our nation. We really, really desperately need the border to be closed, and on and on and on. And we can go over some of those 20 promises here in a second, right after one of these great sponsors that we have here at the network.
And of course it is allfamilypharma.com/RSBN. You need to go visit this great new sponsor of ours. Get that ivermectin. It's a 10% off code if you use RSBN10. And we know that these viral infections have really been on the front of our minds since COVID and everything that's been coming out of China. And perhaps we will find the truth with this new 119th Congress and certain people who were very invested in gain-of-function research. And diving more into that, we want to thank Senator Rand Paul for always being someone who was on the forefront of asking a certain Dr. Fear about what he knew or did not know at certain times regarding this research. But regardless, if you've been keeping an eye on the news lately, with whatever network you've been hearing about bird flu and now this HMPV, this new virus going around China, and we're learning more and more about it as the days go on. But in the last few years, being proactive is not simply a convenience, it's a necessity to make sure you and your family are safe. Here's the problem: finding a reliable place to get these corrective medications in due time is not easy, especially ivermectin. That's where All Family Pharmacy comes in. They take care of everything for you: prescription, medication, over 200 to select from. And they deal with headaches, they deal with minor illnesses, but especially they deal with viral infections. So use code RSBN10, get 10% off, and all you have to do is visit allfamilypharma.com/RSBN. I was perusing that website, and I am thrilled to be a vendor of theirs as well now. So I highly recommend it.
That's awesome there. RSBN 10 for that promo code. Always good to save money as well. All right, so we see that President Trump will be fielding questions from the press a little bit later as we await President Trump to speak in about 28 minutes from now, as you see there, 11 a.m. Eastern Time in Mar-a-Lago. So we know, of course, one of our camera crews are there in Palm Beach, Florida. We look forward to seeing President Trump take to the podium there. And from there, with his opening remarks, this will be interesting as we are 13 days away, actually. 13 days. 13 days away from Inauguration Day. And then again, 12 days away. If you're just joining us right now, thank you so much for doing so. Bobby McNeely, I'm Matthew Alvarez. We are here live with you. And Bobby will be in D.C. for the inauguration coverage, but also that night before the inauguration, the great rally. And I'm emphasizing the rally a lot, but let's be real. The inauguration is what it's all about.
It really is a great tradition in American history, and really ever since Ronald Reagan has been at the west end of the Capitol. It was prior to that on the east end, but one of the things I like to do leading up to this is go back on YouTube or whatever your search engine of preference is and watch speeches of presidents in the modern era. It's a beautiful tradition, and you see this unbroken chain of the oath that is sworn upon and the tradition that President George Washington, the great general and the father of our country, invoked the words, "So help me God," at the end of the oath. It is not required, but it has become tradition because that was the standard that he set for this nation, a God-fearing people. And the great Charlie Kirk of Turning Point USA, with Don Jr. today in Greenland, has been speaking on this topic through Turning Point Faith, which is also a department of Turning Point USA, working with churches throughout America. If you read The Letter to the American Church by Eric Metaxas or seen that great documentary, we've seen the crises happening actually within the church and how the left has tried to infiltrate God-fearing good people. The original documents and the founding of this country, 9 out of the 13 colonies, then the states, had to require a declaration of faith to even hold office or to even walk into a constitutional convention. Such an interesting thing. Maryland was heavily Catholic. The rest were required to be practicing Protestants. We are a faith-based nation. And Charlie was talking about this. You might see this video going around viral on Instagram or on Truth about the fact that someone was saying, well, God's only brought up about 4 times in our founding documents. He said, oh, no. It was you had to be part of a church community, and the revolution was really driven through churches and taverns and community centers in order to have this enlightenment to realize that our rights are bestowed by God, not government.
Exactly. And it's said numerous times, of course, in our documents, as you mentioned there. We're going to get to one of our sponsors here in a second, 20 promises to the American people. Let's start with seal the border and stop the migrant invasion. If that's number one as one of the core promises, that's one of the things he's saying he's going to do on day one. How important is that right now?
I think it's so important, Matthew, because you have the crimes. We watched over the holidays, I think about the public testimony, the victim impact statements of Lake and Riley's roommates. And here's a situation of a beautiful nursing student who, it was so sad to hear these stories that these girls who were living in this house, actually all avid runners, were so sad. Her friend Connolly talking about the fact that not only will she have PTSD from going on a jog alone for the foreseeable future, but she has this guilt that why wasn't I with my friend because she had to go take a final. And that just weighs on a young woman's mind. And you had this person who had committed atrocities in New York, who was brought back into the country, somehow found his way to Georgia. Simply preventable crime. I think about also, now that you're growing your family, and I have young family members in my family as well in the Chicago area. Just to think about 4-year-olds, 2-year-olds crossing this border. And we've seen the video from ICE and border agents speaking Spanish to them and saying, mi hermano, mi hermana, and my family, I don't know where my family went. And God knows what happened to them with these cartel members that are just trafficking them through. This is a crisis. We don't know where 325,000 children are. And God willing, Tom Homan and President Trump eager to get in there and try to find, and God willing that they are safe. But just what they've gone through in this is a humanitarian crisis.
I'm looking forward to them dismantling any of these operations out there, and that is Operation Aurora for President Trump and Tom Homan and others there, including Kristi Noem, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. Today, Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs was talking about the Lake and Riley Act, which the House will be voting on today. So a lot of news going on here at Right Side Broadcasting Network as we get ready to go to Palm Beach, Florida for President Trump's press conference. We'll have that in its entirety. This all brought to you by a number of sponsors, including Republican Red Winery. They have iconic wines, as you see there on the right side of your screen. Republican Red Winery was established in 2020 to give Republicans a way to signal their beliefs and inspire lively conversations. So since then, more than 50,000 customers agree that the patriotic labels are a hit and the quality of wine is outstanding. So you can get a discount as well by using that promo code you see on your screen, RSBN. So go to republicanred.com, wine for the right side. All right, 10:37 a.m. Eastern Time as we get ready to go out there to Mar-a-Lago. Bobby McNeely, along with, Bobby McNeely, I'm Matthew Alvarez here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. So glad you're with us as we get ready to go down to Florida. I mean, we know right now in D.C., even yesterday with the snowstorm, that didn't stop the certification process from happening, not even close. Right. It was a pretty smooth transition there when it came to the certifying of President Trump. It was great to see Senator J.D. Vance and soon-to-be Vice President, of course, Vance, there on the House floor. What was that like to see the joint congressional session there, senators and the House together certifying Donald Trump?
Well, an exciting moment, and we weren't exactly sure what would happen because we've seen antics from certain members of Congress, namely Maxine Waters, over the last several years, who has contested these elections on a regular basis. If you go back to really 1988, this has been a practice of someone getting up and objecting, and then, of course, clearly the certification, with the exception of what happened in 2020, was very clear in one direction based on what the states had certified. Of course, states have to get together prior to this to also certify their results and send that to Washington. So if you're watching that coverage yesterday, even though it seems very formal in the sense of Donald J. Trump from Florida and J.D. Vance from Ohio, or Kamala D. Harris from California, and Michael Waltz from Minnesota. Each time they're saying that, those folders that are being handed from the vice president in her role as president of the Senate, then to the parliamentarian, back to the Speaker of the House, are the official record of each state. So that's what goes into the certification and to those proper records. So this is something that must be done per the Constitution. But two things I noticed with that. We still have a very divided government, but also the fact that it's this beautiful tradition of this peaceful transition of power, and really to see the emotion in all of it too, because I thought, to her credit, which I don't give her a lot of credit most of the time, but Vice President Kamala Harris, rather stoic in that situation, which is not easy for someone who has just lost an election, regardless of how that goes. But then also, I think J.D. Vance very gracious and looking forward to clearly being the next vice president, and to see all our modern era, right, with all the selfies he was taking with House members mostly who are getting their picture with the future vice president.
Exactly. So we're looking forward to seeing J.D. Vance be the vice president, officially sworn in on the 20th, and of course Donald J. Trump on January 20th, some 13 days from today. We'll have a lot of live coverage right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, including our Road to 47, Episode 7 on Thursday. That'll be our last episode of Road to 47. We'll also be checking in on the President Carter funeral as well, if we get a live feed to that. But we do know Thursday will be quite the day as well. And anything else that really pops up, we'll be here for it, including Inauguration Week. A lot of coverage coming up. I know Bobby will be there in Washington, D.C. as well.
And the one way we do this is through our generous, wonderful sponsors. And we have an exciting new sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting, and that is the All Family Pharmacy. And we know that with all these viral infections and now this new HMPV going through China, we have a confirmed case of bird flu here in the United States. It's always smart to be prepared of anything that might be coming around the bend. With ivermectin in high demand and new viruses emerging, the reality is simply clear. We don't know what's coming next, but we do know it's better to be prepared than to scramble. Of course, don't live in fear, but be prepared. It's always smart to take care of you and your family, and that's why having a trustworthy pharmacy is more important than ever. The All Family Pharmacy is here to make it simple and stress-free. They will send out these medications in 2 to 4 days. And they are on top of this, and it's exciting to see a company so committed to this and able to get you what you need, even with the goofiness of the current U.S. mail system as well. But they have 200 different medications to choose from. Of course, you see the ivermectin up there, which is 10% off. Get that code RSBN10. Do that now as you visit their website, allfamilypharma.com. Use code RSBN10. These are high-quality products made right here in the USA, and they offer that fast delivery, just 2 to 4 days.
Exactly. So if you go to allfamilypharma.com, you're going to see right away ivermectin is now as low as $3 per capsule. They've helped more than 85,000 patients. There's a lot of information here that you guys can check out there. So just go to allfamilypharma.com. Awesome sponsor here at Right Side, Bobby. And I know that you, whenever we have a sponsor, you like to dive in, which is good. I do the same thing with some of them, but that one there is no joke. I mean, ivermectin and other medications are really hard to come by sometimes.
Right, and it's nice to have memorabilia. It's nice to have, say, the Trump Force One plane sitting on your desk, but when it comes to vital medication and things that actually can disappear because of big government and global bureaucracy, nice to have that prepared to make sure you're actually healthy and taken care of. And, of course, this is the big movement and agenda of Bobby Kennedy, the next DHS secretary, God willing. And we've seen some reports that some Democrats are finding common ground with Mr. Kennedy as he pursues this, because it's common sense at the end of the day.
Right.
I mean, I was even looking at the back of a candy wrapper, and it had blue 5 and yellow 4 and all these numbers. And what is that? I mean, really, it's a chemical.
Yeah, so the Human and Health Services for RFK Jr., and of course, we've got Kristi Noem with the Department of Homeland Security. So we're looking forward to seeing these appointments be confirmed by the Senate. Next week, the Senate will be looking at Pam Bondi to appoint or approve, and also Pete Hegseth, so the DOD and AG's office there. So there's these 20 core promises. You know, when you were talking there, Bobby, I was thinking about them as well.
Right.
It's funny, you know, first of all, that's what I'm thinking about is the 20 core promises. You know, it's because this is what we really believe in the right things done for our country.
Exactly.
So when you look at these 20, each one of them are grand slam home runs. You think about it. You got 3 people on base. You got the crowd there. It's the bottom of the ninth. They want you to win.
Right.
You stand up to the plate and you go, seal the border and stop the migrant invasion.
Right.
And the crowd goes wild, right? It's literally that real for us in this country. These 20 promises. The second one, carry out the largest deportation operation in American history. Let's go into that a little bit with Operation Aurora. Remember, President Trump was in Aurora, Colorado. He showed you the video of those guys, the gang, going up to each of the apartment complexes, and it's happened in other areas across the country. He's going to take care of business.
Right, and I was privileged to actually have a few words with President Trump, with our great co-host as well. Titus Ellis Smith was there with me as well, and he spoke to us about, I have a little thing to announce. I'm about to walk out and talk about Operation Aurora. It will be the name of the deportation operation in honor of Aurora, Colorado. Over 60,000 people showed up in the state of Colorado that they said was deep, deep blue. Of course, it did go in the direction of Vice President Kamala Harris, but many people showed up because they were so upset with what was happening. And of course, we know that Martha Raddatt's interview with Vice President-elect J.D. Vance, and he said, listen to yourself, Martha, that, it's just a few apartment complexes that are being broken into by MS-13 gangs and Tren de Aragua. What if it's your home that's being, that door being beaten down? Of course, I just moved here to beautiful Auburn, Alabama. I would not like to walk out my door into this wonderful, blessed job with a gang member pounding or trying to knock down my door and my locks. I think that's wrong. So, you know, whether it be just one apartment complex, and we know there's multiple, that's one too many, and because it's preventable crime. And that's why our government is structured as it is, whether it's the federal government with our agencies like ICE or the Border Patrol or the military. It's meant to protect the general welfare of the people. At the state and local level, our police units, fire, emergency. So that's the constitutional government we're trying to get back to. And I think that's why so many people were so intrigued with the common sense of these 20 principles.
We have a constitutional president. We have a common sense president and the people's candidate, now people's soon-to-be 47th president. He always said, and we mentioned this before, when he's at those speeches, he says, when we win the White House.
Right.
You know, he already was famous. He already is famous, right? He doesn't need any more fame. You know, he wouldn't go through all of what he's gone through if he was just about himself and if he was bought and paid for. He would have said, peace, I'm out.
Right.
But no, he stayed. And he stayed for not only himself, I believe he stayed for himself as well. Think about it. He's part of We the People. He wants the Constitution to continue.
Right.
So, and then he's doing it for the rest of us. So, and on top of that, he's got natural giftings that are going to help in business and in leadership and peace through strength and on. So, yeah, we're back.
we are back. We are back. There's no question about that, my friend. And that's the thing that's actually what I mentioned to friends who might be on the other side or say, hey, I voted this way, but they want to have a robust discussion. And I talked to them about those 2 points. The fact that he had an opportunity in the first term to say go after political enemies. I put that in quotations because that seems to be the political speech that's out there, going after your enemies. He showed so much restraint and following the rule of law, and then that backfired on him. And you've seen all this lawfare and these DAs that we know were on the White House logs. We had Fonnie Willis's boyfriend who actually went to meet with the White House and the federal government on many occasions. Perhaps President Biden was in those rooms. We just know that the logs show that these DAs worked together by visiting the White House and at least speaking with perhaps Merrick Garland, the AG. It was a coordinated lawfare that took place. But there's 2 points. I bring that up about all the lawfare, but also the fact that President Trump legally only accepts $1 per quarter in doing this job. He's doing this job for free. And he asks his staff, where can this money go in my salary to help America? One of the biggest things he did in his first term, fixed a large section of the Gettysburg Memorial. A very special place for you as well, with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania being your home. And I'm just so intrigued by this person, really the people's president, the man in the arena, a man for this moment.
And that he picks a lot of people that are also common sense and straight up for this country. So that's what we're looking for. It's not rocket science. We want to be safe. We want to be wealthy. We want to be protected. We want to have our constitutional rights and our freedoms. I mean, that's what he ran on. That's what he did for us in that first administration. And now with even more awareness about how terrible the left has been, we can reverse all of that. That's why we call it the reform of this country. So those 20 core promises, looking forward to seeing that. We'll get back to that in a second. As we want to thank the Republican Red Winery with their iconic wines that you are seeing right there on the right side of your screen, the 45 to 47 one. Not only, if you don't drink, that's totally cool, of course, but just having that bottle would be kind of cool too. Look at that label there, beautiful artwork, but also a great wine for those of you that do like to enjoy some wine. So RepublicanRedWinery.com. You can also use the RSBN promo code that you see there on your screen for a discount. So again, it's an exclusive discount code to help secure those bottles there. Simply enter that code and you'll receive an additional $5 off. So again, RepublicanRed.com, wine for the right side. All right, it is about 10 minutes from the top of the hour here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Thank you so much for joining us. No teleprompters needed here because we just love our nation, right? And a prompter is not terrible to have, but at the end of the day, we just have seen how terrible it was under this Biden administration, so-called Biden administration. And we're just like you, we're seeing how terrible it was. We saw what happened on November 5th. We all turned out the vote, and here we are. Looking forward to seeing President Trump take the podium there.
And another gentleman who does not need a teleprompter, and we know this because they fell over at a Michigan rally, and he kept going and just talking about really what was on his heart. And he would say every once in a while and stop and just reflect on that. Isn't it nice to have a president who does not need a teleprompter?
You know what I love about that story is he actually went up to the prompters and tried to fix them.
Right.
That's what we like about him.
Exactly.
And it's not only President Trump. Anybody that in the future is an outsider, he's really set the bar up to kind of like, hey, yeah, he could be presidential, do his thing, but he can also fix a teleprompter because it's broken. Who cares?
Right.
Get the job done. That's what the American people want, and that's what we have with DJT.
Well, and this is something I reflected on the campaign trail. He's someone who really has attention to detail. And it sounds silly, but if you make your bed in the morning, or, for example, the Marine who was at attention and the amount of wind was throwing his hat off, he kept grabbing the hat and trying to put it back on. And it just shows you it's servant leadership. I remember there was a time he was on Undercover Bosses, if we've seen that show from time to time, and he was actually at the Trump Hotel in Chicago, a beautiful place if you like to go and enjoy a cocktail right along the Chicago River up at Rue Bar, or even the top floor beautiful restaurant that they have in Chicago that really highlights the skyline. But I digress to Undercover Bosses. He actually was the valet for a moment. He did house cleaning and housekeeping, and really was greeting guests as the maitre d' into one of the restaurants. And that's someone who really knows their business, who really respects their employees. And he highlighted how really emotionally and socially intelligent you have to be to make the guest experience really extraordinary, and almost be in that background and know that they're having a wonderful time. They know you're there, but they really maybe won't see you at times, but you're simply performing a task which might seem menial, but makes a huge difference in someone's life.
Undercover Boss is a very fun show. You're going to have to send me that link because I've never seen that episode.
Oh, I think you'd enjoy it. It's very fun.
I'm literally going to type it right now to say,
see if it's still popping up here.
Get link from Bobby.
Right.
So we don't forget. But also we have some great sponsors here at Right Side as well.
Oh, we do, and that's All Family Pharma is one of our newest and most exciting one that is out there. Get ivermectin for 10% off. Okay, this code is RSBN10. It's RSBN10, and I think you're going to really love what they have to offer. Of course, we know about these viral infections that are sweeping really across the world. Ironically, they're all coming from China, so maybe something that the 119th Congress must stay on when it comes to potential gain-of-function research. But regardless, you have control of protecting you and your family with ivermectin, high demand, and new viruses like this HMPV coming directly out of the People's Republic of China. The reality is clear. We don't know what's coming next. So secure your household as quickly as possible. Don't scramble. Be prepared when it's too late. And that's why having a trustworthy pharmacy like the All Family Pharmacy is so crucial. It is here and stress-free for you with over 200 medications. They can ship to you in 2 to 4 days. And you can take care of all of this by going to the allfamilypharma.com/RSBN. See what they have to offer. But I highly recommend in the flu and cold season that ivermectin, because we have these tablets going for as low as $3 a pill right now. And it's been proven that ivermectin protects against a host of deadly invaders.
Always good. All you have to do is go to allfamilypharma.com/RSBN for more. If you're just joining us right now on Right Side Broadcasting Network, I'm Matthew Alvarez alongside Bobby McNeely here as we are about the top of the hour, 11 a.m. Looking forward to seeing President Trump walk to that podium. We'll be going there live as soon as he walks out there. Again, we're 13 days from the inauguration, 12 days from the huge MAGA rally in Washington, D.C. For those of you that like hockey or basketball in person, I prefer hockey because, when it's, second period or third period and the crowd goes wild after a hockey goal, it's kind of fun. I've been to some NBA games as well. I saw Shaquille O'Neal when he played for the Orlando Magic years ago. At the old Spectrum in Philadelphia, of all places.
Fun. Wow. Yeah.
Kind of cool, right?
That's great.
So I remember him running. Anyway, it was just awesome. But the point is, we're looking forward to this MAGA rally because it's going to be at the Washington Capitals and Washington Wizards Arena on Friday night. Bobby, you'll be there. Man, it's going to be goosebump central, man.
It's been so special to be in these iconic arenas throughout the country, and maybe perhaps the most iconic was Madison Square Garden in New York City, President Trump's hometown, back on October 27th. And that's really in that moment that I was seeing on the ground. This is something special. This is different. It looks like he's going to really succeed in a large way and clean up those 7 swing states. And we saw that in the New Jersey, New York, even the tri-state area, how much he swung votes in the Republican direction because, again, the common sense and all these issues that bind us. I mean, simply the MAGA promises, the 20 promises that became the Republican National Committee platform July at their convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, simply really a sequel, an executive version of what Speaker Gingrich did back in 1994 with the promises to America and that legislative agenda to deliver for the American people. And that was the largest legislative shift in roughly a half century to Republican candidates and lawmakers who have really made their mark on society, whether positive or negative. You had people like not only Speaker Gingrich, but Rick Santorum, who came in with that freshman class. You had Joe Scarsborough, who at least initially was anti-Trump, but then went with his wife to meet with President Trump down at Mar-a-Lago. And isn't that interesting how President Trump, it's the art of the deal, the art of the comeback. He's able to bring former rivals to sit down and have dinner with him, a conversation. Jeff Bezos meeting with him. Of course, Mr. Zuckerbucks himself from Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg meeting with President Trump. So clearly, President Trump keeping that door open to those who even criticized him.
It's always good to do that, to keep things going, for this country. The latest news that we're following here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, if you're just joining us right now, let's talk about Greenland for just 1 second. Don Jr. and Charlie Kirk and others in Greenland right now. Trump Force One is actually in Greenland. President Trump obviously not on board. He's going to be right there in Florida. Quite interesting that President Trump is taking this very seriously about possibly through a business transaction acquiring more land.
I think it makes a lot of sense for our geopolitical defense strategy. I saw firsthand how Alaska was crucial for our self-defense, for really our continent, and then also, of course, that came into play with the Cold War and the Soviet Union. And that's been such a vital, what was called Seward's Folly actually was probably one of the greatest strategic initiatives, and of course that was purchased from Russia back in the Lincoln administration, if you could believe that, way back when. So in the middle of the 19th century is when Seward's folly occurred. But to Mr. Seward, and may God rest his soul, probably the best decision he made as Secretary of State. And I think with acquiring Greenland, we now have an opportunity to protect those Atlantic waters as we can with the Pacific Fleet. And this is important, as I mentioned in the prior hour. You have a situation happening in the UK right now. As we were talking, Matthew, off air, perhaps being in the UK and specifically London, not the place you want to be right now for free speech, for migrant entries, a lot of radicalized young men moving there and being welcomed with open arms. And you have two situations happening with the Irish Republican movement who wants to reunify the country into all 36 counties, hence no longer having Northern Ireland that would be aligned with the UK. You also have the Scottish freedom movement that failed a decade ago but has recently had some recent power, some people coming back wanting to revisit that because of the recession and the economic woes coming from London. So, hypothetically, in a few months, potentially, not for sure, you could have a situation where you have the UK being simply two countries of England and Wales versus what they have now with Northern Ireland and Scotland. The problem that can happen as a result is all of those UK bases are in Scotland, many of the naval bases that patrol those waters. Russians come through there, sometimes the Chinese. So having Greenland can be huge for us if we have an American fleet that's on standby.
And that is a great thing to have. And sticking to geopolitics, Justin Trudeau stepping down as the Prime Minister of Canada. You know, it's funny, as soon as President Trump, jokingly calls Canada the 51st state and Governor Trudeau by name, then days later, before you know it, he's not even the Prime Minister anymore. Right. So that quite interesting developments there. As it is the top of the hour, we're getting ready for President Trump there. In Mar-a-Lago, Palm Beach, Florida, we have a number of great sponsors bringing you this live coverage.
And we're so grateful for this to bring to you, the American people, what other networks might not televise. And that's what's so special about having the return of President Trump, is his use of talking to the American people mostly through media. And All Family Pharmacy is one of those great new sponsors that helps provide all of this unbridled access to Trump 47 and our 47th president. You've heard about the HMPV virus, if you've been watching today, coming from China, going in and around the People's Republic. But that's a big reminder that we need to be prepared for the unexpected in unprecedented times that we're living in. This wonderful company has over 200 medications you can choose from, and they will deliver them to you upon order in 2 to 4 days. So none of the bloated bureaucracy, none of the waiting for seeing a doctor in order to get life-saving prescriptions like ivermectin. 10% off code RSBN10, allfamilypharma.com. This is essential to do. This is not simply a convenience like it might have been several years ago. We know that gain-of-function research is happening. We know virus spreading has been happening, especially in light of COVID. So protect yourself, protect your family. allfamilypharma.com/RSBN. That code RSBN10, 10% off.
Great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, as we are moments away from seeing Donald J. Trump in Mar-a-Lago right there, Palm Beach, Florida. Of course, this is live coverage. We have our live camera right there, getting ready to see him take that podium. We're looking forward to hearing, we're hearing reports that it's about economic development today, this press conference, but also will he talk about Greenland? Will he talk about a number of items, which he usually does, as you know, Bobby.
Absolutely, and that's something that he'll stay out there and perhaps talk over an hour to the press about the pressing issues. And we know that President Trump, and especially Tom Homan, along with other great picks to surround his staff and his cabinet, eager to get to work, eager on day one to protect our great country.
We are exactly 13 days from Inauguration Day, 12 days from that huge MAGA rally in Washington, D.C. And outside of that, it looks like we are 13, even to 14 days away from all of those day one policies that President Trump said he's going to take care of, from closing the border to J6 pardons. There's going to be a lot of news to cover in that 72 hours, the 24/7 news cycle is going to go to hyperdrive, Bobby.
And based off of what President Trump has shared, it will be those exact issues, Matthew. It's what we know of, the canceling of the Biden executive orders. He has shared via True Social about starting the rebuilding of the wall. We know Texas has actually purchased back that wall that the Biden administration was trying to sell those extra pieces. Of course, many of that was left in the Sonoran Desert in Arizona. Just these big, beautiful wall pieces that literally are just sitting there, iron ore just rotting in the Sonoran Desert. Very sad, but at least we have them. And Texas gaining some of that back in order to complete this wonderful project. And of course, because of the executive authority that exists with the border, yes, shutting that down on day one.
Exactly. Remember we did a live report from Cochise County in Arizona. President Trump was there visiting the border and touring it and talking with the folks there. You saw some of that wall that wasn't built yet,
right,
just laying there. And so now we're going to see that thing's going to get built. So it's going to be great to see the wall built. And there's so many things that are going to get done. I mean, we thought, remember when President Trump took office the first time around? Oh, he was walking around with the CEOs of GM and Chrysler and all that, doing all these great moves for the country. And now this is going to be a hyperspeed for us coming up.
It really will. And he actually got the NATO allies to pay their fair share finally. And some of that was 4% respectively, or whatever was part of the different agreements. But we saw that business prowess really come into effect. But before we had, what have you got to lose? That was the closing argument. It's I'm better than Hillary Clinton. Now it's a record of success versus a record of incompetence, of extremism on the part of the hard left. The fact that President Biden, sadly, just not altogether, someone suffering clearly from dementia, that was hidden from us, the American people. And the administration knew a lot more until they installed a nominee.
I find it interesting that over the weekend there were some mainstream networks trying to hold Chuck Schumer and others accountable. Why didn't you let us know about Biden's decline when the mainstream media themselves were right there with them? And now they're trying to act like that wasn't what they were doing. So we see what's going on out there as it is 11:06 a.m. Eastern time. As soon as President Trump goes to that podium, we'll be going there live, even during this next sponsor that we're going to tell you about, RepublicanRed.com. RepublicanRed.com, you can get a percentage discount. We're talking, I think it's $5 actually, if you use the RSBN promo code. So just go to RepublicanRed.com. It's wine for the right side. As you know, you see the iconic brands right there on the right side of your screen. Again, you can get these exclusively at RepublicanRed.com. Use that RSBN promo code. Go ahead and get a package shipment over to you if you'd like. RepublicanRed.com, wine for the right side. As it's 7 after 11 a.m. Eastern, President Trump to take to the podium there at Mar-a-Lago. Looking forward to that. Always looking forward to hearing from President Trump at the press conferences. Also, if you'd like to donate to Right Side Broadcasting Network, all you have to do is text RSBN to 801-801. So we do have a camera crew there in Florida right now, obviously not bought and paid for by any woke corporations. We are very based when it comes to the right sponsorships and the right moves here at Right Side Broadcasting. So if you'd like to help out at all, just text RSBN to 801-801 as we get ready for DJT at Mar-a-Lago. So, Bobby, your thoughts as we get ready to go there to Florida?
Well, it's exciting to see a president who is willing to talk to the press on a regular basis. What I miss most about the Trump administration of prior years, simply the fact that every day you would wake up around 5 or 6 in the morning and he'd already have done perhaps 2 phone interviews. He had another one coming up. If he was traveling at all with the press pool, you'd see him leaving the White House and really answering in-depth questions and really talking to the American people through the media. And most of it, as we know, was up against ridiculous questions and biased questions. And for some reason, the vast majority of American media, when he was elected, believed this narrative that he was going to be this fascist leader. Well, nothing could be further from the truth, because fascist leaders don't provide peace and prosperity for their citizens. And he did this with the deregulation, with the Trump tax cuts, something they want to make permanent once again. How about the Abraham Accords, where you have Israel and Bahrain and these traditional enemies that did not get along, the UAE joining in that agreement in order to make the Middle East more peaceful and prosperous, and in turn really isolate Iran. So he's had some great achievements on the domestic front, on the foreign policy front, including the most important, sealing our border. And then, oh yes, we stand on liquid gold. How about drill, baby, drill? Get that done for America and actually open up ANWR again and bring back that beautiful gas pipeline of natural gas that, of all people, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau had begged President Biden, please don't close the pipeline because that means Canadians will lose jobs.
And not only have Canadians lost jobs, of course, our country, our citizens have lost jobs due to terrible decision making on the Biden side of things. So looking forward to seeing the guy that will get the job done correctly when it comes to common sense. I was thinking common sense is truth and truth is common sense. And that's what we're looking for here. If you have a reporter there that asks a question to President Trump and the reporter is asking a question in the context of lies and false narratives, it looks foolish because you're coming up against truth and common sense.
Right.
And we, the people, have become more aware than ever before of how fake the news is because of President Trump. I was thinking also about the legacy already that President Trump has left, and he still has 4 more years. So it's going to be quite the legacy in 2029.
It's really something that, again, someone who did not need to do this. He was simply a citizen and said enough is enough and had remained consistent from decade to decade to decade. If you remember his interviews with Oprah and Larry King, he would talk about how countries were divesting in certain movements, especially anti-Semitic movements, which you see now on college campuses. It's so sad to see that ugly face of racism really rearing its head again. That's why I wear this pin on occasion to stop Jewish hate, because our Jewish brothers and sisters deserve to be in any culture, in any society, respected. And we don't see that on the college campuses. Perhaps that will change with President Trump coming back into office. But this is someone who really went up against a bloated bureaucracy, who pulled back that curtain and said, look at how bad this is. And he would always allude to certain situations during his first term. I knew it was bad, but I did not know it was this bad. And look back to the 1980s. He talked about Japan and how they would manipulate their currency. Ronald Reagan, the great capitalist president, which I think they mirror each other in a lot of ways as being those citizen activist presidents. He slapped a 100% tariff on Japan in the 1980s. And sometimes history forgets about that, saying we're not going to play this game. You're not going to take advantage of the United States on the world scale. President Trump initiating that on a number of different issues, mostly with renegotiating NAFTA and the USMCA. We had to do that right here on our own continent.
And back to global conflicts and wars, President Trump is all about peace through strength. And anytime a leftist reporter would ask him a question about Ukraine, Russia, or Israeli conflicts, he'd always simply first say, I want the killing to stop.
Right.
He is a peace through strength candidate and a peace through strength president, and that's what we look forward to seeing more of coming up in this second administration as we await President Trump there in Mar-a-Lago, Florida. And thank you so much for joining us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. No matter what your political affiliation is, thank you for joining us. We are simply here to share with you common sense and truth. And a lot of people have their different thoughts on what is truth, what is common sense. Well, at the end of the day, we want to be safe. We want to be free. We want to believe how we want to believe. We want, it's the freedom of religion, freedom of speech. That's what we are about here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Obviously, we are based in Judeo-Christian belief system in the Holy Bible, but at the end of the day, what we're looking to do is just share with you what's happening out there in Florida today. We're going to have President Trump's full press conference from start to finish, and we're glad that you're here joining us, whether you're watching on X right now or if you're on Rumble or YouTube or our website or Truth Social. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Matthew Alvarez, along with Bobby McNeely here live in Auburn, Alabama.
And we really appreciate that too in the new year. If you can like, share, and subscribe on your favorite platforms, and really just to get all of that information sharing out there. And that's how we're able to bring you all this wonderful content now on a daily basis.
It's always good. A lot of America First news is happening now, but it's going to continue on for the future, because we see what the left-wing mainstream media has covered. We've seen what leaders in the Democrat Party have done, and we want truth, we want transparency, and we want these 20 core promises to happen. Because I was thinking about, we do talk positively about President Trump a lot here at Right Side, and rightly so. Outside of that, though, he stands for truth. He stands for common sense. So if let's go to the 20 promises. If this was written by anybody, I'd say I agree with that.
Oh, absolutely.
I agree with seal the border. I agree with ending inflation. I agree with large tax cuts, defending our Constitution, right? So it's this guy, President Trump, steps in there as an outsider and takes on this mantle of 20 core promises and wants to deliver for the American people. And that includes myself and my family and Bobby and everybody here. We're just want to connect with you as we the people, of course. So
well, and you've had historically, at least on the Republican side, this political consultant class lawyers would write these agendas and these convention pieces and so-called promises, and then in some cases not follow through. President Trump, with this platform, said, this is where I stand, let's get right to the point, and let's defend this country and make it a peaceful and prosperous world. That's what it results in, and that's, I think, the difference you see in the populist movement that has really become the new shape of the modern Republican Party. President Trump is truly that third-party candidate who just said no to the uniparty of the Republican and Democrat establishments in Washington, D.C., and really throughout the country. And it has been broadly accepted by most of the American people now on several occasions over the last decade.
Exactly. And many great sponsors to thank here at Right Side.
Oh, we're so thankful for all of our sponsors, but this new exciting one especially. It's the All Family Pharmacy, a great group to go to if you've been keeping an eye on the news lately or just whatever you've been seeing out there. You know that viral infections are on the rise, and ivermectin is crucial to protecting you and your family. 10% off code RSBN10. Get those tablets as low as $3 per tablet right now. allfamilypharmacy.com. This is allfamilypharma.com/RSBN code RSBN10. This is crucial because we've learned so much in the last few years. Being proactive is the best way to protect yourself and your family. But here's the conundrum. Finding a reliable place to get medications is not easy, especially when it's ivermectin. This company has over 200 great medications for you and your family to keep you safe. So they take care of everything for you, whether it's prescription, medication, shipping, so you don't have to have all the headaches and the stress that comes as a result of that. They will ship in 2 to 4 days. You'll get that nice and fast. allfamilypharma.com/RSBN10. Take advantage of it today.
All right, great sponsor here at Right Side, RSBN10 for that promo code and discount. At the end of President Trump's various speeches, he would say things like, we're going to make America free again, make America strong again, make America safe again, make America proud again, make America healthy and wealthy again. Also, Bobby, remember when he was showing the military videos, the contrast to what a gritty military looks like that is fighting for the country versus what it turned into under the leadership now. It's quite the contrast, isn't it?
Right, it is. And you have all these DEI hires. You're having this issue now with, even the police chief locally in New Orleans with that tragedy, not knowing where these barricades were. It's a lack of leadership because people are being hired based on the way they look, or in the case of the military, as that video was shared on the campaign trail, many embracing this transgender drag movement and highlighting that in a force that's simply there to be lethal. That's the number one, to protect the American people. Instead, it turned into these games of dressing up as women and parading around and really making a mockery specifically of the Navy. And again, it's the TV generals and admirals at the Pentagon who really give a bad name to the great generals like Raisin Cain that President Trump has spoken about, who are focused on the mission and defeating ISIS and threats abroad or even domestically when it comes to MS-13 and Tren de Aragua and the cartels. So that's why I think you saw so many women supporting President Trump, because how disrespectful to have men dressing up as women and parading about it. And then in some cases, with the DEI, you have children attending drag time story hours or even pornography in our underage schools, K through 12. I mean, it's just rather ridiculous what some people in their positions of power, whether it be in the military or school boards, have done in the last few years to really create confusion in our country.
A lot of sickness on that side there, but at the end of the day, people look for acceptance and love, and if they would just know that God in heaven is that need there, right, would really help steer in a right direction. So, faith is obviously a great thing, and we have the freedom of religion here in this country and
right,
freedom of speech. So, all right, so it's 11:20 a.m. Eastern time as we get ready to go to Mar-a-Lago there. We've been on since 9:30 a.m. So if you've been with us since then, thank you for sticking with us. If you're just joining us, I'm Matthew Alvarez alongside the brilliant Bobby McNeely here live right now on Right Side Broadcasting Network, bringing you the latest headlines that we're seeing out there that we're monitoring, including there are a number of MAGA great people in Greenland right now. Don Jr. and Charlie Kirk and others are posting some videos with people that are wearing MAGA hats in Greenland. It's just kind of cool to see that warm welcome there in that country. So we'll see what happens. As we know, President Trump has, I wonder how long the list is. I have a notebook over here.
Right.
There's about 30 pages on it. Not all of them are filled out, but I'm sure President Trump has a notebook of 50 to 100 pages of just details of what's going to be done. Great things for our country.
Well, some predictions that I'm going to make here on the show. I think in the coming months, even coming years of this administration, besides what we know with what has been announced on True Social with those executive orders upcoming on January 20th with sealing the border, Operation Aurora, also canceling the Biden orders as of recent, because some of them especially are being held up in court because we don't know if they're constitutional or not, and that has to be addressed in and of itself. But I think you will have Greenland purchased by the United States. I think the Danish kingdom will come to an agreement. Of course, the monarchy there is more of, for the glitz and glam of it, they're good people, they're wonderful people, wonderful culture, but it would likely behoove them to receive a nice check from the United States and to welcome these new Americans, these Greenlanders, into our house and homes, whether that be as a territory or perhaps another state. But I think you will have perhaps a 51st or even 52nd state with the leadership of President Trump to come in the form of perhaps Greenland, perhaps Puerto Rico. We'll see how that all develops as the days and months and years go on with this administration. But you're going to have big things happen. I think you will have the end of the Department of Education. I'm very excited for our 250th anniversary, July 4th of 2026. President Trump has tasked Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk to have that full Doge report. I think they will start cutting immediately within that first week, but as it goes on and on and on, they will have that full report in full scale by that time. You also have Linda McMahon at the Department of Education, who will likely find a way to close those doors once and for all, something they've been working on since the Reagan administration. And then finally, I'm very interested about Kelly Loeffler at Small Business Administration and how that can be streamlined and really brought back more to the states. And then also, are we going to send these bureaucracies, these bureaucrats, and these bloated agencies out of the empty space that is Washington, D.C.? Literally, they have office buildings that haven't been filled since COVID in certain cases, and actually put, say, the Department of Agriculture in Iowa, and they have to live amongst the American people and not amongst those K Street lobbyists. That will be interesting.
That will be interesting and well put. I mean, and one of the other things, talking about American people, the pardons for J6ers. So we'll see what happens. I mean, it's a lot to be done. January 20th on, we're going to see a lot of what Bobby just talked about right there, because we've seen it over the past year in the campaign trail as well. We're well versed in all of this because you're around it. We're around it. We see it and consume this truth, and love to report it to you, and also love to bring you live coverage nonstop if we can do it. We'll go all day if we could.
Oh, there's no stopping us. I mean, the energy that and the obsession we have with bringing good coverage to you, the American people, is so important to us, and we're just grateful because we saw it in the numbers, and we saw as we got closer to the election day how many millions were tuning in, and we're just so grateful here at Right Side Broadcasting to be able to bring you this unbridled coverage and access to the 45th and soon-to-be 47th President of the United States.
Can you believe it? 13 days away from Inauguration Day as we get ready to go to President Trump there at the podium in a few minutes from now, as it's 11:24 a.m. Eastern. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be going to President Trump here for the entire press conference, including if he's going to be taking any questions on his first press conference after winning the presidency. He did take some questions. We'll see if he does that again here in Florida. And hopefully the questions will be based in truth and not based in lies.
Right. And there's some things that, sadly, there's a lot of reporters out there that it might be their first or second gig, and it's tough to get that one question in. And they want those clicks. They want our 24/7 news cycle. There's so much information. And that one question I thought of last time, will you attack Iran? It was a gotcha question. And he handled it very well and just said, look, I can't tell you that. I don't want to embarrass you. I don't want to tell you how to do your job, but I'm never going to answer a question like that because it puts national security at risk. And that shows you his demeanor and strategic approach to leadership, especially in the presidency, whereas other presidents might have shuffled or mumbled over it, especially our current president, and maybe have given a dangerous answer. And how many times have we seen even Tony Blinken, who has been a lackluster Secretary of State? Ooh, there we are.
Let's go to Mar-a-Lago right now.
Good morning. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be with you. Many things are happening that are exciting, very exciting for our country. And we're honored to welcome one of the most respected business leaders in the Middle East, indeed the world. He's a founder and chairman of Damac Properties, Hussein Sajwani, a very respected gentleman. And I'm thrilled to announce today that Damac will be investing at least $20 billion over a very short period of time into the United States, and they may go double or even somewhat more than double that amount of money. It's a great thing, and I believe he will say that he's doing it because of the fact that he was very inspired by the election. They wouldn't do it without that election, I can tell you. A lot of people wouldn't. You saw last week where we have somebody who's going to go from $100 to $200 billion, and we have many other people, and we'll be bringing some of them out. Some of them like to do it somewhat more quietly, and some don't, and they feel so strongly about the country that they want to let people know about it. But it's an honor to have such a great investor investing in our country. The investment will support massive new data centers across the Midwest, the Sun Belt area, and also to keep America on the cutting edge of technology and artificial intelligence. He's very big into the data centers, and that's going to be a very hot item in the coming years, as you know, with AI. In particular, the first phase of the project will be in Texas, Arizona, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Ohio, Illinois, Michigan, and Indiana, those places. And Hussein, I'd love you to come up and say a few words. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's been amazing news for me and my family when he was elected in November. We've been waiting 4 years to increase our investments in U.S. to a very large amount of money. We are a company operating in more than 20 countries around the world. We have delivered more than 45,000 luxury units and another 45,000 in the pipeline. In data center, we are in 10 countries around the world. in Asia, Europe, and Middle East. And we're very, very excited now with his leadership and his open strategy and policy to encourage businesses to come to U.S. For the last 4 years, we've been waiting for this moment. And we're planning to invest $20 billion and even more than that if the opportunity in the market allow us. But at the moment, we're planning $20 billion in data center, catering for the AI and cloud business for the hyperscalers.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Mr.
Great
President.
honor. Thank you very much. So nice. And that man knows what he's doing. He knows. So, Hussein, we're going to work with you and make sure everything goes smoothly. We have powers that haven't really been used in terms of environmental. If you invest over $1 billion in the United States, we're going to give expedited reviews to everybody because everyone's afraid they're going to come in and get caught in the quagmire, which is very prevalent in the United States, unfortunately, the quagmire of environmental and various other regulations and rules. And I made it a point of telling people if you invest $1 billion or more, and we'll do this for people with far less too, but we guarantee it. We're going to move them quickly through the environmental process. Sometimes people held up 12, 13, 14, 15 years. I saw it with plants in Louisiana where I got it approved in literally a week. They were through the review in 1 week after spending 14 and a half years trying to get it, and they were going nowhere. It was a terrible thing. So I've been a victim of that myself over the years, and I think I know all the games and all the tricks that are played, and much of it is just done to stop progress. So we're going to be helping you and everybody else that comes to the United States and wants to invest their money, that you don't get tied up for the rest of your life and you can't do anything. This commitment further underscores that many of the greatest business leaders on earth are seeing a very bright economic future for America since the election. As you know, a lot of positive things have happened. We are inheriting a difficult situation from the outgoing administration, and they're trying everything they can to make it more difficult. Inflation is continuing to rage, and interest rates are far too high. And I've been disappointed to see the Biden administration's attempt to block the reforms of the American people and that they voted for. We had a landslide election. We won every swing state. We won the popular vote by millions and millions of people. Nobody even knows how many people, millions. And they're still counting in some areas. You know, they're still counting the vote in some areas. Can you believe this? What a place. What a horrible place. One of the things we're going to do is we've got to fix the election so that we get honest counts and they get done by 10 o'clock in the evening or something thereabouts. They have places where they're still counting votes. President Biden's actions yesterday on offshore drilling, banning offshore drilling, will not stand. I will reverse it immediately. It'll be done immediately. And we will drill, baby, drill. And we're going to be drilling in a lot of other locations. And the energy costs are going to come way down. They'll be brought down to a very low level. And that's going to bring everything else down. That's what caused it to go up, along with the ridiculous spending on the Green New scam. All this money, trillions of dollars. It's like throwing it right out the window, what they're doing. And they're trying to spend so much now. They're just taking money and giving it to anybody that wants it for any project at all, if it's certified under the Green New scam. And they don't work, and it's too expensive. And, they told me that we're going to do everything possible to make this transition to the new administration very smooth. It's not smooth because they're doing that. They're playing with the courts, as you know. They've been playing with the courts for 4 years, probably got me more votes because I got the highest number of votes ever gotten by a Republican, by far, actually, by a lot. And, we had a great election, so I guess it didn't work. But even to this day, they're playing with the courts. They have their friendly judges that like to try and make everybody happy on the Democrat side. It's called lawfare. It's called weaponization of justice, and it's happened at a level nobody's ever seen before. So many. I defeated deranged Jack Smith. He's a deranged individual. I guess he's on his way back to The Hague. And we won those cases. Those were the biggest ones. And the press made such a big deal out of them, but we did nothing wrong. We did nothing wrong on anything. And the people saw that. You know, when they vote when a Republican, it's not easy for a Republican. When the Republican wins the popular vote by millions and wins all 7 of the swing states, people said, well, he could win 4. We won all 7, and we won them by a lot. That tells you we won. That tells, and they've been watching this injustice. I call it the Injustice Department. What they've done is so bad. The whole world has watched that. And it took work, but it got me a lot of votes because when explained, I mean, we have a judge in New York who's a very crooked judge. I'm under a gag order. I can't even talk about aspects of the case that are the most vital aspects. I'm under a gag. Do you know that I'm the president-elect of the United States of America? I'm a former very successful president. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. We had borders that were sealed and beautiful. Everything was good. We had no wars. We defeated ISIS. We had no wars. Now I'm going into a world that's burning with Russia and Ukraine, with Israel. You took a look at that attack on October 7th, the attack on Israel, with the horrible way they got out. Not the fact that they got out. I would have been out before them. But we would have been out of Afghanistan with dignity and strength as opposed to looking like a bunch of fools with 13 dead and many, many badly, horrifically injured. Nobody ever talks about them. No arms, no legs. Nobody ever talks about them. The way they got out was outrageous, leaving billions of dollars of brand new military equipment that I bought in the hands of the Afghans and specifically the Taliban. It's the group. And we were doing very well. We would have been out. We would have been respected. I think it's one of the reasons it was so badly handled, that withdrawal where people are jumping onto airplanes, falling off the sides of airplanes when they're 3,000 feet in the air. And nobody's ever seen anything like that, the worst. And because of that, I think Russia went and attacked Ukraine. When they saw that, they said, these guys are incompetent. They don't know what they're doing. But we know what we're doing now. And that's going to all end. And we have a great military. I defeated ISIS, as you know. We were in no wars. I just finished a couple. And we got also our soldiers guarding Syria and Turkey. We're in the middle. We had 5,000 soldiers. They would have been gobbled up with 2 armies. We had one army, 300,000. We had another one, 500,000 or 600,000, getting ready. We had 5,000 people in the middle. I said to a general, how do 5,000 people do in that case? And the general just looked at me and said, not well, sir, not well. And I took them out. And you know what happened? Nothing. I got criticized. I saved 5,000 lives, actually. And we did a great job, and we're going to do an even better job because now we have a tremendous amount of experience. We have people that I can rely on. But the 625 million acres, people can't realize. That's like the whole ocean. Take an acre. You know, an acre, you have a house on a half an acre, on a quarter of an acre, or an acre. If you have an acre, you have a big deal. Now you multiply that by 625 million acres. It's like, feels like the whole ocean. And that's our strength, you know. People can say we manufacture, we don't manufacture. The thing we have oil and gas more than anybody in the world. And we're going to have more of it, too. But they took away 625 million acres of offshore drilling. Nobody else does that. And they think they have it, but we'll put it back. I'm going to put it back on day one. I'm going to have it revoked on day one. We'll go immediately if we need to. I don't think we should have to go to the courts. But if we do have to go to the courts, you know, they try to be sneaky. They go in and they sign. Remember, this is a man that said he wants the transition to be smooth. Well, you don't do the kind of things. You don't have a judge working real hard to try and embarrass you. Because I did nothing wrong. By the way, I did nothing, absolutely nothing wrong. If I did something wrong, I wouldn't be standing here right now because I've won all these cases. Nobody's ever won so many cases as I have against the Justice Department. I mean, Jack Smith had cases all over the place. People were being subpoenaed. Lives were being ruined. They were spending everything they had, money. We were helping them out. We had to. They were subpoenaing people that had no idea what they were even talking about. That's a sick group of people. And it was all to influence the election. It was all a fight against a political opponent. We've never had that in this country. We have had that in certain countries. We've had that in third-tier countries. We've had that in banana republics, but we've never had that in a place like the United States. I don't even know if it's been on a small level. I'm sure it has been on a small level, but this was the largest level ever. They brought this moron out of The Hague. He's a mean guy. He's a mean, nasty guy. His picture was perfect because you look at his picture, you say, that's a bad guy with his robe, his purple robe. And he executes people. He shouldn't be allowed to execute people because he'll execute everybody. He's a nut job. But we won all of those cases with him. And, I don't know the judge in Florida, but we had a brilliant judge in Florida that saw right through it. And we won the case. She was a brilliant judge with great courage. You know, the left, as we call them, the radical left, they have a way, they play the ref, and they play it very hard. They play the ref. They go and say horrible things about judges and prosecutors. And some judges and prosecutors say, look, the only way I'm going to get these people off my back is to give victory to them. They're playing the ref. I think it's illegal what they do. It's almost like talking. It's worse than talking to a judge. But the judge in Florida, Judge Cannon, was brilliant and tough, and she didn't stand for it. And I don't know her. And never met her until the case, and I don't believe I said even one word to her. But she was very, very strong and very, very brilliant. And her opinion was so brilliant that they dropped their appeal. They couldn't beat the appeal. So that's what we're up against. So they say we're going to have a smooth transition. All they do is talk. It's all talk. Everything they do is talk. We're going to have a smooth transition. And then they take 625 million acres and they essentially landmark it so you can't ever drill there again. Well, we're going to be drilling soon. We're going to be opening up Anwar. We're going to be doing all sorts of things that nobody ever thought was even possible. But remember and just to get off the subject, because I couldn't believe it when I heard it yesterday. I couldn't believe the size of it. I mean, you put down a map and put this up. It's just massive. And remember that that's worth probably, I mean, I've had estimates, $40 to $50 trillion. That's more than our national debt. Essentially, he's thrown it away. He's thrown it away. He's taken $50 trillion. So if we owe $35 trillion, he's taken $50 trillion of value and thrown it right out the window. We can't do that. Nobody can do that. One other thing he did yesterday, which was in many ways worse. It's hard to believe it can be worse. He wants all gas heaters out of your homes and apartments. He wants them to be replaced by essentially electric heaters. I don't know what it is with electric. This guy loves electric. We're going to be ending the electric car mandate quickly, by the way. This guy loves electric. And we don't have enough electricity. And then we have AI where we need more. And he wants everybody to have an electric heater instead of a gas heater. Gas heater is much less expensive. The heat is much better. It's a much better heat. As the expression goes, you don't itch. Does anybody have a heater where you go and you're scratching? And that's what they want you to have. They don't want you to have gas where you don't have the problems of the electric. And the source is plentiful. They're much cheaper to operate. They're much better. They work much better. They look much better. 60% of homes and apartments have gas heaters. He wants them all removed quickly. These people are crazy. There's something wrong with them. There's something wrong with them. They also want to go back, and they have already started that, to when you buy a faucet, no water comes out because they want to preserve. Even in areas that have so much water, you don't know what to do. It's called rain. It comes down from heaven. And they want to do no water comes out of the shower. It goes drip, drip, drip. So what happens? You're in the shower 10 times as long, you know. No water comes out of the faucet. You want to wash your hands. They want to go back to even stronger than what they have right now. As you know, I ended that policy. You can have all the water you want. Makes no difference. It comes weird, especially in certain areas. We have so much water, we don't know what to do with it. But these are all things. They want very, very little water to go into your dishwasher, almost none. And you know what people do? They just keep pressing, keep it going. They end up using more water. Likewise, washing machines. They want in your washing machine to have very little water coming out of the washing machine. So when you wash your clothing, you have to wash it 4 times instead of once. You end up using more water. We're a party of common sense, and things that I'm telling you now is really all about common sense. On January 20th, we'll turn the economy around very quickly, because right now when I think of our economy, I think about inflation. That's what we have. We have inflation, I believe, at a level that we never had before. There's never been anything like it. And over the next 4 years, the United States is going to take off like a rocket ship. But really, it's already doing it. If you take a look, just last month, SoftBank announced the $200 billion. I think it'll be 200. He said between 100, and I said, how about making it 200? And he sort of said yes, but let's say it's 100, but it might be 200, right, Brian? Dollars, United States, creating more than 100,000 jobs. Hussein just announced a tremendous investment that he's going to make, and that's money that's in the bank. He's going to come and do it, and he'll do a great job, and he'll build the best centers in the country, I guarantee, because I know the way he builds. Since my election, the stock market has set records. The S&P 500 index has broken above 6,000 points for the first time ever, never even close. In a single month, small business optimism soared 41 points. It's not a 41. It went up 41 points. And that's the largest in the 39-year history of the group that does it. According to Gallup, the American people's confidence in the economy has just surged to the highest level in history. That's why I have a news conference like that. I take the greatest business leaders in the world. I say, hey, do you want to say you're going to invest the money? They're not looking for news conferences. They're saying, what am I doing here? They go in and they invest money. But it's good to know where the smartest business people in the world are investing, and they're investing in the United States. So we've done this all in 2 months of not being there. We haven't been there. And it's pretty amazing, and we think we're going to do some really great things, really great things. We're being respected again all over the world. The Panama Canal is a disgrace, what took place at the Panama Canal. Jimmy Carter gave it to them for $1. And they were supposed to treat us well. I thought it was a terrible thing to do. It was the most expensive structure ever built in the history of our country, relatively. It would be the equivalent of substantially over $1 trillion today. We lost 38,000 people. Think of it, 38,000 people, they died from malaria, mosquitoes. They were unable to stop the mosquitoes. They paid people 5 times more to take the job. Many of those people died. We gave it away for $1. But the deal was that, they have to treat us fairly. They don't treat us fairly. They charge more for our ships than they charge for ships of other countries. They charge more for our Navy than they charge for navies of other countries. They laugh at us because they think we're stupid. But we're not stupid anymore. So the Panama Canal is under discussion with them right now. They violated every aspect of the agreement, and they've morally violated it also. And they want our help because it's leaking and not in good repair. And they want us to give $3 billion to help fix it. I said, well, why don't you get the money from China? Because China's basically taken it over. China's at both ends of the Panama Canal. China's running the Panama Canal. And they come to see this Biden, this guy who should never have been allowed even to run for president. Of course, she shouldn't have either, because that never happened. I had to be 2 people, not 1. But they want $3 billion to fix the Panama Canal that's run by China and makes a lot of money, China. One of the most profitable structures ever built, because you have ships lined up back to Florida, frankly, and they just keep going through, and the numbers are staggering, $500,000 to $1 million a ship. And they took it away from us, meaning we gave it to them for $1. But not going to happen. What they've done to us, they've charged us, they've overcharged our ships, overcharged our Navy. And then when they need repair money, they come to the United States to put it up. We get nothing. Those days are over. Working with the Republican majorities in Congress, will cut taxes slash regulations, raise wages, and boost incomes at a pace the world has not seen before, and certainly not from our country. We had a big chunk of it for the first 3 years prior to COVID coming in my administration. We had the greatest economy in history. We cut the most regulations in the history of our country, and I did that all in 4 years, by 4 times more than any other president cut. We did that in 4 years, and we were just getting started. We'll impose new tariffs so that the products on our stores will once again be stamped with those beautiful words, made in the USA. And we are not treated well, as you know, by Canada. Canada is subsidized to the tune of about $200 billion a year, plus other things. They don't essentially have a military. They have a very small military. They rely on our military. It's all fine, but, they got to pay for that. It's very unfair. I have so many great friends. One of them is the great one, Wayne Gretzky. I said, run for prime minister. You'll win it'll take 2 seconds. But he said, well, am I going to run for prime minister or governor? You tell me. I said, I don't know. Let's make it governor. I like it better. But no, something's going to have to be done. Same thing with Mexico. We have a massive deficit with Mexico, and we help Mexico a lot. They're essentially run by the cartels, and can't let that happen. Mexico's really in trouble, a lot of trouble. Very dangerous place. And we're going to be announcing at a future date pretty soon. We're going to change, because we do most of the work there, and it's ours. We're going to be changing, sort of the opposite of Biden, where he's closing everything up, essentially getting rid of $50 to $60 trillion worth of assets. We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name. And it's appropriate. It's appropriate. And Mexico has to stop allowing millions of people to pour into our country. They can stop them. And we're going to put very serious tariffs on Mexico and Canada, because Canada, they come through Canada too. And the drugs that are coming through are at record numbers. So we're going to make up for that by putting tariffs on Mexico and Canada, substantial tariffs. And we want to get along with everybody, but they have to. It takes two to tango. We're approaching the dawn of America's golden age. It's going to be a golden age for America. We have things that nobody else has. We have more natural resources. We have, number one. Nobody knew that until I came along. I made us number one. We're number 3. I made us number one in a very short period of time in drilling. And you can talk about windmills. They litter our country. They're littered all over our country, like dropping paper, like dropping garbage in a field. And that's what happens to them, because in a period of time they turn to garbage. Most expensive energy ever. They only work if you get subsidy. The only people that want them are the people that are getting rich off windmills, getting massive subsidies from the U.S. government. And it's the most expensive energy there is. It's many, many times more expensive than clean natural gas. So we're going to try and have a policy where no windmills are being built. Off the coast of New Jersey, they want to build like 200 windmills. The people are going crazy. Nobody wants them, and they're very expensive. They don't work without subsidy. You don't want energy that needs subsidy. Energy is a good business. You don't need subsidy. But when you build these massive towers, they're 25 stories tall, 40 stories. They have 170 stories tall. The blades, they take 3 ships to ship them. It's crazy. They're dangerous. You see what's happening up in the Massachusetts area with the whales, where they had 2 whales wash ashore in, I think, a 17-year period. And now they had 14 this season. The windmills are driving the whales crazy, obviously. And they had actually over, I think, 125 or something over a number of years. And we don't want that to happen. It's a disaster. It's amazing the way a true environmentalist would say, oh, we love wind. It sounds good, but that's about where it ends. After 10 years, you have to redo them. And what happens is they don't do that. They let them stand and they rust, and they say, because of the environment, I'm not a believer in this, but they say you can't, because it's a certain fiberglass, that the blades cannot be buried in earth, that's an environment. So what do you do with them? What do you do with them? And I don't know if you've ever gone to Palm Springs, California, or any of these places where you have long-term windmills standing. They're a disaster. They're rusting, rotting, closed, falling down. This is as you enter Palm Springs. And they put new ones next to them because nobody wants to take them down, because why should they take them down? It's very expensive to take them down. And you can't do anything with them because the blades, you can't bury them because of the environmental protection. We'll look at that. Doesn't make sense, but that's what they say. So we are at the beginning of a great, beautiful golden age of business. And I think we're also at a golden age of common sense, because everything I'm saying to you, from a simple water faucet that doesn't allow water to come out appropriately, to all of the other elements of what we do and what we're going to do, to take $50 to $60 trillion off our country's balance sheet because some man that has no idea what he's doing, has no idea. You know it, I know it, the Democrats know it. What they did is a crime by allowing that to happen. And I'll bet you, if you asked him today, how much acreage did you submit? Essentially, did you destroy? You destroyed the economic viability of drilling in the ocean. And with AI coming along and all, a lot of people don't realize that AI is going to be a big thing, but you'll need double the electricity at least that we have right now. So right now we produce electricity for many, many different things. AI is a very big deal in terms of the future. China is already building electric facilities, big, bold electric facilities. And you know how they're being fired up? With coal. They're being fired up with coal. And we're going to build bigger and better ones. People like Hussein that are doing the same thing as he is. I'll bet they don't do it as well because I know how he does it, but they're doing a lot of things. The problem is they can't get their permits because I say build the plant with the building. So with the structure, build the plant, because if you go into grid, the grids are old. So they said, that's a great idea. In other words, build your electric facility alongside of your plant. And you could have extra output if you want, because once you build it, you can make it larger pretty inexpensively. You could have extra output, which you'll sell to the public, but build it with the plant, and people are loving that idea. So we're going to have a lot of fun making America great again, and it's going to happen, I think, very, very quickly. It's already happened. So I would say this, and this has been pretty openly reported by the news. There's never been anything like what's happened in the list since we won the election. Couple of months since we won the election, the whole perception of the whole world is different. People from other countries have called me. They said, thank you. Thank you. The perception of the whole world is different. We're going to have to settle some big problems that are going on right now. We're going to have to settle up with Russia, Ukraine. That's a disaster. I look at numbers every week, the number of people being killed in that war. People don't know, mostly soldiers now. But the towns have been obliterated. This was a Biden fiasco that that should have never happened. If we had a real president, if we had a president that knew what he was doing, Russia would have never, ever gone in. But they did go in, and we have a mess. The cities are all blown up. The people have largely left. And the soldiers are killing each other at levels that haven't been seen since the Second World War. So we'll have to get that one straightened out, too. That's a tough one. Much tougher than it would have been before it started, I can tell you that. A deal could have been made just by an average deal maker. A deal could have been made on that. So thank you all for coming. We'll take a couple of questions. Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Mr. President, thank you. Wanted to touch on the world on fire that you mentioned, but let's start, if we could, with your references to Greenland and the Panama Canal, so forth. Can you assure the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No.
And can you tell us a little bit about what your plan is? Are you going to negotiate a new treaty? Are you going to ask the Canadians to hold the vote? What is the
Yeah,
strategy? And then
I
I've got
can't
some-
assure you, you're talking about Panama and Greenland. No, I can't assure you on either of those two. But I can say this, we need them for economic security. The Panama Canal was built for our military. I'm not going to commit to that now. It might be that you'll have to do something. Look, the Panama Canal is vital to our country. It's being operated by China. China. And we gave the Panama Canal to Panama. We didn't give it to China. And they've abused it. They've abused that gift. It should have never been made, by the way. Giving the Panama Canal is why Jimmy Carter lost the election, in my opinion, more so maybe than the hostages. The hostages were a big deal. But if you remember, and nobody wants to talk about the Panama Canal now because, it's inappropriate, I guess, but because it's a bad part of the Carter legacy. But he was a good man. Look, he was a good man. I knew him a little bit, and he was a very fine person. But that was a big mistake. Giving the Panama Canal to Panama was a very big mistake. We lost 38,000 people. It cost us the equivalent of $1 trillion, maybe more than that. Probably the most expensive. They say it was the most expensive structure, if we call it a structure, which I guess you can, ever built. And giving that away was a horrible thing. And I believe that's why Jimmy Carter lost the election, even more so than the hostages. Those two things.
If I could just follow up on Ukraine and Iran, the two negotiations you'll be heading into. On Ukraine, you said just before it's a lot more complicated now.
Much more complicated.
Do you believe...
Because it would have never started.
Right, but it has started. You've
well,
got
not only started, the cities are largely knocked down.
So you've got what you've got. At this point, to hold on to leverage in dealing with President Putin, would you make a commitment to the Ukrainians that you will keep supporting them during the negotiations?
Well, I wouldn't tell you if that were the
Would
case.
you make a commitment to provide a security guarantee if they do enter into an armistice or a ceasefire along the lines that the French and the Germans?
So, a big part of the problem was Russia for many, many years, long before Putin said you could never have NATO involved with Ukraine. Now, they've said that. That's been written in stone. And somewhere along the line, Biden said, no, they should be able to join NATO. Well, then Russia has somebody right on their doorstep, and I could understand their feeling about that. But there were a lot of mistakes made in that negotiation. And when I heard the way that Biden was negotiating, I said, you're going to end up in a war. And it turned out to be a very bad war. And it could escalate. That war could escalate to be much worse than it is right now.
They can never join NATO.
Well, my view is that it was always understood. In fact, I believe that they had a deal, and then Biden broke it. They had a deal which would have been a satisfactory deal to Ukraine and everybody else, but that Biden said, no, you have to be able to join NATO. And that's always been, and nobody knows more about NATO than I. Years ago when I first started this, I didn't know too much about NATO, but I got it right anyway. I said they're taking advantage. I'm the one that got, and the Secretary General was here, as you know, 2 weeks ago, saying that if it weren't for me, NATO wouldn't even exist right now, because I raised from countries that weren't paying their bills. At that time, 28 countries, 20 of them were not paying their bills, 21 to be exact. They weren't paying, or they were paying a very small portion. And I raised over $680 billion. That was the number he gave, by saying, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you. And as soon as I said that, the money came pouring in. But Obama could have said it. Other people could have said it. Bush could have said it. Nobody said it but me. I took a lot of heat. They said, oh, that's a threatening statement. Well, they weren't paying their bills. I said, we're not going to protect you if you're not paying the bills. So in a true sense, I saved NATO, but NATO's taken advantage of us. And one of the problems that I have, and I've said it openly, I said it to President Zelensky, Europe is in for a tiny fraction of the money that we're in. Now, whether you like that situation or not, Europe is much more affected than the United States. We have a thing called the ocean in between us, right? Why are we in for billions and billions of dollars more money than Europe? And, they're a similar size, a little smaller, but they're a similar size economy as the United States when you add them up. And yet Europe is in for a small fraction of the number the United States is in. Now, Biden could have called them up during the term. That's what I did. I said, you have to pay your bills. And one stood up. I won't say who. You'll probably have it, because the media hated to report on it. But a prime minister stood up from a country, a famous meeting of 28 nations with no press, no anybody in the room. He stood up. He says, does that mean if we don't pay our bill, and at that point it was 2%, it should be 5%. It should be 5%, not 2%. But at that point it was 2%, but many people didn't pay. Some people didn't pay anything. But many people were way, including Germany. Germany was at less than 1%.
You're going to press for 5%?
Well, I think NATO should have 5%, yeah. Well, you can't do it at 2%. I mean, at 2%, every country, if you're going to have a country in a regular military, you're at 4%. I think they should be, they're in dangerous territory. I think it should be, they can all afford it, but they should be at 5%, not 2%. I'm the one that got them to pay 2%. But a gentleman stood up, a prime minister stood up, and he said to me, sir, could I ask you a question? You're saying we have to pay our bills. If we don't pay our bills, will the United States protect us from Russia? I said, if you don't pay, you mean you're delinquent? He said, yes. He said, if you're delinquent, we will not protect you. I took a lot of heat. Although it was somewhat closed door, I took a lot of heat from the media. And you know what happened? The money started pouring in. That's why NATO has money. And the Secretary General said it was the most incredible thing he had ever seen in a negotiation. Now, if I would have said, yes, we will, nobody would have paid. If I would have loved to say, yes, we'll protect you even if you don't pay. But that's not the way life works.
Mr. President, two questions related to each other. First, you said on your first day of office you're going to pardon January 6th defendants. Are you planning to pardon those who were charged with violent offenses?
Well, we're looking at it, and we have other people in there. And as you see, I guess 24 or 28 people came now from the FBI. That came out very quietly. Nobody reported it, but they had people in some form related to the FBI. They had 4 or 5 people that were strongly related to the FBI. We have to find out about that. We have to find out about Hezbollah. We have to find out about who exactly was in that whole thing, because people that did some bad things were not prosecuted. I see it all the time, and you see it too. People that were doing some bad things weren't prosecuted, and people that didn't even walk into the building are in jail right now. So we'll be looking at the whole thing, but I'll be making major pardons. Yes, please. Please.
On Jack Smith's report.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. It's good to see you again. 2 questions about Syria and the ongoing war in Gaza. About Syria, the Pentagon disclosed last month the U.S. has some 2,000 troops in Syria. That's almost double the number initially we were told of 900. Will you keep that troop capacity the same upon taking?
Well, I won't tell you that because that's part of a military strategy. But I will say it was Turkey. Turkey's been after that country in different names and different forms and shapes for 2,000 years. Those people that went in are from Turkey. And President Erdogan is a friend of mine. He's a guy I like, respect. I think he respects me also. He's the one that didn't go after certain people after I requested that he not. You know who I'm talking about, the Kurds. I don't know how long that's going to, because they're natural enemies. They hate each other. But he didn't do that yet. And he didn't do it in the past also. He started, and I said, please don't do that, and he didn't do it. So, but if you look at what happened with Syria, Russia was weakened, Iran was weakened, and he's a very smart guy. And he sent his people in there through different forms and different names, and they went in and they took over, and that's the way it is.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. Do you have concerns about HTS taking control of?
By the way, I have the envoy here. Is that in the back? It is. Standing with my son, Eric, is Steve Witkoff, who's just got back from the Middle East, and he's done a fantastic job. He's a great deal maker. I said, what we need there is a deal maker, because nobody makes a deal. We have people that understand where the rivers are and where the meets and bounds are, but they can't talk. They can't make deals. Steve's done a great job. I just want to thank you, Steve. You've been working endlessly for months, and he's working specifically on the hostages, trying to get them back.
Well, that was my second question. Is Hamas
Steve, come up for a second. Maybe you might want to say a couple of words.
Sir,
I didn't
another hostage.
I didn't know Steve was going to be here, actually. He's done a fantastic job. And it's a dangerous job, too, and we appreciate it. He didn't know about this kind of danger and the other deal-making he does. Now he sees a lot of big danger. Come on up, Steve.
Mr. President, can I ask you a second part of that? Hamas.
Just one second. I'm going to give you a little report on the hostages, if I can. Steve? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Wow. Well, I think we're making a lot of progress, and I don't want to say too much because I think they're doing a really good job back in Doha. I'm leaving tomorrow back to go to Doha, but I think that we've had some really great progress, and I'm really hopeful that by the inaugural, we'll have some good things to announce on behalf of the President. I actually believe that we're working in tandem in a really good way, but it's the President, his reputation, the things that he has said that are driving this negotiation. And so hopefully it'll all work out and we'll save some lives. I believe we've been on the verge of it. I don't want to discuss sort of what's delayed it. There's no point to be negative in any way. But I think it's the President, his stature, what he said he expects, the red lines he's put out there, that's driving this negotiation. I'm going back probably either this evening or tomorrow night.
Are you confident there'll be a deal before January 20th, or is that something that's likely to happen? If there's a deal even at all, we've been hearing this now for another part.
I would say
They better be.
right. I would say that the President is exasperated. I don't want to talk for him, but look, I don't know anyone who delegates better than President Trump. He gives us a lot of authority to speak on his behalf, and he exhorts us to speak emphatically. And emphatically means you better get it, you better do this, because the alternative.
Do you think they're waiting for President Trump to take office?
No, I think they heard him loud and clear. Better get done by the inaugural.
But when you say all hell will
Before
be
I
paid,
take
or
office.
all hell must be paid
That's
if
right.
they don't release the
Well,
hostages.
you know what that means, don't you? What, do I have to define it for you? Look, all
No, I know
hell
you're not
will
gonna
break out.
telegraph
If
what-
those hostages aren't back, I don't want to hurt your negotiation. If they're not back by the time I get into office, all hell will break out in the Middle East.
Can you elaborate?
And it will not be good for Hamas, and it will not be good, frankly, for anyone. All hell will break out. I don't have to say anymore, but that's what it is. And they should have given them back a long time. They should have never taken them. There should have never been the attack of October 7th. People forget that. But there was, and many people are killed. They're no longer hostages. I have people from Israel and others calling, begging me to get, we had also people there from the United States, just so you know. They're holding some so-called hostages from the U.S. But I've had mothers come to me and fathers crying, can I get the body of their son back? Can I get the body of their daughter back? That beautiful girl where they threw her in the car, pulled her by her ponytail and threw her in the car like she was a sack of potatoes. I said, what happened to her? Sir, she's dead. Like a 19, 20-year-old beautiful girl. And the way they treated her. And I just say it this very simply. Steve's got a job to do. He's a great guy, great negotiator, great person. They respect him over there already. It's what we needed over there. We have people that know everything about the Middle East, but they can't speak properly. They don't know. He's a great negotiator. That's what I needed. I could have sent that gentleman right over there, Hussein. He's a great negotiator. There are people, they're rare. Great negotiators are very rare, like a great surgeon. But we have the right person. But I tell this, I don't want to hurt the negotiation. If the deal isn't done before I take office, which is now going to be 2 weeks, all hell will break out in the Middle East. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. President.
You've done a great job.
Thank you.
Mr. President, more than 140 police officers were injured by rioters on January 6th. Will you pardon anyone who attacked a police officer?
Well, the only one that was killed was a beautiful young lady named Ashley Babbitt. She was killed, and there was actually somebody else that was killed, also a MAGA person, but people don't give it 100% credibility. I'm going to find out about it, and we're going to find out. But Ashley Babbitt was killed. She was shot. Should have never been shot. She was shot for no reason whatsoever. In fact, they say that she was trying to hold back the crowd, and the crowd was made up of a lot of different people, so we'll see. But I will tell you this, the person that was was killed was Ashley Babbitt. The other thing is, when they talk, there was never charges of insurrection or anything like that. But if there were, this would be the only insurrection in history where people went in as insurrectionists with not one gun, okay? And let me tell you, the people that you're talking about have a lot of guns in their home for hunting and for shooting and for entertainment, a lot of good reasons. But there wasn't one gun that they found. And why didn't they find the bomber, the pipe bomber? They know who the pipe bomber is. The FBI knows who it is. The status of the FBI has gone down so far, and the status of the DOJ, or as I call it, the Department of Justice, it's the Department of Injustice, being laughed at all over the world. And hopefully with Pam Bondi and with Kash Patel and with other people that we're putting in, that will all come back. If you do a poll in the FBI, I guarantee you I'm at like 90% with the agents of the FBI, but they have hurt that incredible place. Law enforcement, you think of the FBI, they raided this house. By the way, they could have told me, could I see this? I would have given them, I actually told them, come in anytime you want. You can see anything. They raided the house and the case was dismissed. And now I'm in litigation. I'm suing them for doing that. And I feel so badly doing it. I'm the president of the United States, and I'm suing the United States, but I'm suing them for other things, too. The FBI has gone so, its reputation has been so horribly hurt between Comey, who is the worst, and all of the others. What's happened to the FBI is, and we're going to make it great again. We're going to make the FBI great again. We're going to make the Department of Justice fair and strong, but fair again. Because all they did was attack me because I'm their political opponent. And that includes with local judges like Marchand. You ought to find out. Ask them, why do I have a gag order where I'm not allowed to speak? Think of it. I'm the president of the United States, and I'm not allowed to speak. Why? Because if I did speak, people would understand the scam. It's a scam. And we have very dishonest judges, and New York judges are very bad. We had one that valued this house at $18 million because it was good for their case. He actually valued that chandelier is worth more than $18 million. He valued this house as $18 million. And we have another one who was so nasty, so horrible, such a brute, most vicious, vile person. These are New York judges. But we've won most of the cases, so we're very happy about that. Please.
Back on Greenland. Your position is clear, but have you directed your staff to take specific actions to draw plans? And can you elaborate again? You didn't rule out military coercion.
Well, we need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before I even ran. People have been talking about it for a long time. You have approximately 45,000 people there. People really don't even know if Denmark has any legal right to it. But if they do, they should give it up because we need it for national security. That's for the free world. I'm talking about protecting the free world. You look at, you don't even need binoculars. You look outside, you have China ships all over the place. You have Russian ships all over the place. We're not letting that happen. We're not letting it happen. And if Denmark wants to get to a conclusion, but nobody knows if they even have any right, title, or interest. The people are going to probably vote for independence or to come into the United States. But if they did do that, then I would tariff Denmark at a very high level.
Have you asked your staff to draw plans for acquisition? Are you active?
No, we're not at that stage, but we have people. I haven't even entered office yet.
Secondly, sir, Elon Musk has drawn some criticism and a lot of attention for some of his actions and provocative statements about foreign affairs, including in Europe. Your reaction to that, is that appropriate for
you? Mean where he likes people that tended to be conservative? I don't know the people. I can say Elon's doing a good job, very smart guy. I don't know the people you're talking about. He was, I know he said some negative things about a couple of people that are running for office, but that's not so unusual. Yes, please.
I wanted to ask you about Ukraine and Putin. How soon do you anticipate going to meet with Putin to discuss the Ukraine situation?
Well, I can't tell you that, but I know that Putin would like to meet. I don't think it's appropriate that I meet until after the 20th, which I hate because, you know, every day many young people are being killed, soldiers. You know, the land is very flat, and hundreds of thousands of soldiers from many hundreds of thousands from each side are dead, and they're laying in fields all over the place. Nobody to even collect. There's landmines all over. It's a disaster. But it's very flat. It's great. It's farmland, and it's very, very flat. And the only thing that stops a bullet is the human body. And the human body is stopping a lot of bullets. I hope so, yeah. I hope to have 6 months.
First 3 to 6
No, I hope long before 6 months. Look, Russia's losing a lot of young people, and so is Ukraine. And it should have never been started. That's a war that should have never happened. I guarantee you, if I were president, that war would have never happened.
Who would you like to nominate to replace Michael Barr as vice chair of the Federal Reserve?
I'll be announcing somebody soon.
Mr. President, if we were to work under the assumption that you're serious about making Canada the 51st state of the United States, the leader of the Conservative Party in Canada said, under no circumstances,
All right.
would ever be the 51st state.
Maybe he won't win, but maybe he will. I don't care.
You had suggested.
Listen, I don't care what he says.
Sir, real fast, you said you were considering military force to acquire Panama and Greenland. Are you also considering military force to annex and acquire Canada?
No, economic force, because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada. But here's the problem with Canada. So many friends up there. I love the Canadian people. They're great. But we're spending hundreds of billions a year to protect it. We're spending hundreds of billions a year to take care of Canada. We lose in trade deficits. We're losing massive. We don't need their cars. You know, they make 20% of our cars. We don't need that. I'd rather make them in Detroit. We don't need the cars. We don't need their lumber. We have massive fields of lumber. We don't need their lumber. We have to unrestrict them because stupid people put, you know, restrictions on, but I can do that with an executive order. We don't need anything they have. We don't need their dairy products. We have more than they have. We don't need anything. So why are we losing $200 billion a year and more to protect Canada? And I said that to, as I called him, Governor Trudeau. I said, listen, what would happen if we didn't subsidize you, if we didn't, because we give them a lot of money. We help them. As an example, we're buying icebreakers, and Canada wants to join us in the buying of icebreakers. I said, you know, we don't really want to have a partner in the buying of icebreakers. We don't need a partner. But
the U.S. the right to lay claim to us.
No right. Nope. No right. Here's what we have. We have a right not to help them with their financial difficulties because we owe $36 trillion too. We're going to start knocking it out pretty fast, but we're going to be able to do it because of energy and other things. But no right. No right. But why are we supporting a country $200 billion plus a year? Our military is at their disposal. All of these other things, they should be a state. That's why I told Trudeau when he came down, I said, what would happen if we didn't do it? He said Canada would dissolve. Canada wouldn't be able to function if we didn't take their 20% of our car market. You know, they send us hundreds of thousands of cars. They make a lot of money with that. They send us a lot of other things that we don't need. We don't need their cars, and we don't need the other products. We don't need their milk. We got a lot of milk. We got a lot of everything, and we don't need any of it. So I said to him, well, why are we doing it? He said, I don't really know. He was unable to answer the question. But I can answer it. We're doing it because of habit, and we're doing it because we like our neighbors, and we've been good neighbors. But we can't do it forever, and it's a tremendous amount of money. And why should we have a $200 billion deficit and add on to that many, many other things that we give them in terms of subsidy? And I said, that's okay to have if you're a state. But if you're another country, we don't want to have it. We're not going to have it with European Union either. European Union, we have a trade deficit of $350 billion. They don't take our cars. They don't take our farm product. They don't take anything. And so we're not going to have it with them either. Brian, go ahead.
Yes. Happy New Year, by the way.
Thank you.
We have some breaking news. You may not be aware of this, but it looks like Canada has blocked the DOJ from releasing the Smith's report until further court proceedings. Get your thoughts on
Wow,
that.
that's a big story.
Yeah.
So, if I get it right, the fake witch hunt started by the DOJ, having to do with books and records, and Biden had many more, and he wasn't protected by the Presidential Records Act, I was. But all of that fake stuff that took the lives of people, I mean, literally destroyed people. People are destroyed because of what they did. Destroyed. But we got to be president. But Biden did it for 40 years. He did it when he was a senator. That was illegal. And they ruled it was illegal. How about that? They said, it's illegal, but he's unfit to stand trial. So he can stand and be president of the United States, but the prosecutor found that he's unfit for trial. I was going to use that as a major talking point, but I never got to use it because all of a sudden I had a new candidate who was also sort of unfit to stand trial, right? But so what you're saying is that the judge just blocked the, so Cannon was thrown off the case. They dropped their appeal because he had no case. They dropped all of that, the lawsuits against us. They lost the lawsuit. So this is deranged Jack Smith. So he dropped the lawsuits. He was told to by the DOJ because they had no lawsuit. They lost in court in front of a very strong and a very brilliant judge. They lost in court, and that pertained to other cases in other courts. So he wanted to do a report just before I take office, probably. So he'll do like a 500-page report, and it'll be a fake report, just like the investigation was a fake investigation. And I said, well, wait a minute. This guy was thrown off in disgrace. In disgrace. He's going back to The Hague or wherever they're going to send him. In disgrace. Because he failed so badly. Because it was a fake case against a political opponent. They thought they were going to use this to beat me. So what you're saying is I'm just hearing that they're not allowed to issue the report. So if they're not allowed to issue the report, that's the way it should be. Because he was thrown off the case in disgrace. Why should he be allowed to write a fake report? It'll only be a fake report. That's great news. Yeah. Good.
And if I can just follow up real quickly, you want to comment, many Americans are angry that we're sending millions of dollars every month to the Taliban. Do you anticipate?
It's not even believable. Billions of dollars, not millions, billions. We pay billions of dollars to essentially the Taliban, Afghanistan. And that's given by Biden. That's the same man that took away $50 to $60 trillion worth of value from the United States. Think of it. Probably our most valuable asset. Took away our most valuable asset. This can't be allowed to happen. We are now a nation of common sense. When he does that, 625 million acres, this can't be allowed to happen. Thank you for the information.
Yes, sir.
Most other people probably knew about it, but they wouldn't have told me, right?
Mr. President, on the campaign trail, you vowed to bring down the prices at grocery stores very fast.
Yeah, we will do it fast.
You recently told Time Magazine that bringing down prices would be very hard. So what can the American people expect when you get into office?
It's always hard to bring down prices when somebody else has screwed something up like they did, but we'll bring them down. We'll get them down. Energy is going to bring down prices. We're going to have a lot of energy, and energy is what brought it up. Energy and their bad spending is what brought it up, and energy is going to bring it down. We're going to have prices down. I think you're going to see some pretty drastic price reductions. As an example, food, bacon, ham, apples, everything has gone through the roof. It's one of the reasons I won. So as you know, I said it, inflation was one of the reasons I won, but I think the biggest reason I won was the fact that they are allowing prisoners to come into our country. They released their prisoners, their murderers. Thousands of murderers are now walking around the streets of our cities and farmland all over. Murders, people that have killed. Many, 32% have killed more than one person. They released them from their jails, their prisons, and their mental institutions and insane asylums into our country. I believe that's the reason we got such a large vote. All right, maybe one or two more questions. Yeah, please, go ahead. Go ahead, you go. You have to ask.
Can you, President Carter is laying in state today in Washington. You had some harsh words for him about the Panama Canal. Is there any disconnect there? Do you feel a little bit bad about doing that on this day?
No, I liked him as a man. I disagreed with his policy. So, hey, he thought giving away the Panama Canal was a good thing. I think it cost him the election. That and the hostages. I actually think that was a bigger factor because that's a deal that just should not have been made. But again, this was a question that was asked of me. I didn't bring it up. I didn't want to bring up the Panama Canal because of Jimmy Carter's death. But people don't bring it up. But, you know, you and other people have asked me about it. No, it's a deal that I was very strongly against. I was a young guy when this took place. But just why would we spend all of that money, lose 38,000 people to malaria, the mosquito? They were dying. It was horrible what was happening. They paid them 4 times more than they would make in the United States, but they knew they were going to go over there and die. And they died in the jungles of malaria. There was nothing we could do to stop it. 38,000. And then we gave it away for $1.
About getting your agenda through Congress, you appeared to open the door in your radio interview yesterday for a two-bill approach. It's still your preference for one big, beautiful bill, as you said.
Well, I like one big, beautiful bill, and I always have, I always will. But if two is more certain, it does go a little bit quicker because you can do the immigration stuff early. Now, you have to understand, for immigration and for the wall, we won the case on the wall. You know, they tried to sell the wall for 5 cents on the dollar, by the way. And we had, fortunately, a judge that stopped that. But they were already discarding the wall. And 5 cents on the dollar. And you know what they were doing? They were calling us up and saying, we'll sell it back to you at 200 cents. In other words, double what we paid for it. So they were going to buy it from this guy for 5 cents on the dollar. They were making deals. And fortunately, we had a very smart judge that stopped it cold. I think he called for an investigation, too, and he should. But think of it. They were selling the wall that was exactly the wall that the Border Patrol wanted. That was designed by them. Steel, concrete, rebar. Exactly as it was. Very, very heavy steel, very powerful steel, hard to cut. Very, very heavy 7,000-pound concrete, which is a very strong concrete. Everything was top of the line. Very expensive. Would be double what we paid for it then, 6 years ago. But let me just tell you, they were selling it for 5 cents on the dollar to people, and those people were calling us, asking us to pay them 200 cents because it's a good deal because we can have it immediately. And you know what immediately is? Just leave it in place. No. The papers haven't written that, though. You know, that deal is like all the other things that these people do. These people either hate our country or they're very stupid. And I don't believe they're stupid because nobody can cheat on elections like they cheat and be stupid. They either hate our country or they're stupid. So remember what I said, because nobody wants to report it. They were selling the wall for 5 cents on the dollar and trying to resell it back to us for 200 cents or less, but for 200 cents on the dollar. That's a nice return.
President, the Capitol Police stopped putting fact checks on posts on its website. And
Say it.
Meta said they would stop putting fact checks on its website and still allow community.
Yeah, well, I watched their news conference, and I thought it was a very good news conference. I think they've come a long way. Meta, Facebook. I think they've come a long way. I watched it. The man was very impressive. I watched it. Actually, I watched it on Fox. I'm not allowed to say that. Say it.
Do you think he's directly responding to the threats that you have made to him in the past?
Probably. Yeah, probably.
The last time you were here, you were asked a question about the U.S. possibly launching a preemptive strike on Iran. You said you wouldn't answer that question.
On who?
Obviously, on Iran. The U.S. launching a preemptive strike on Iran's nuclear facilities.
And I said, I don't talk about it.
Right, and that's understandable, but it is a legitimate question.
It's not really, because only a stupid person would answer it. Look, it's a military strategy, and I'm not answering your questions on military strategy. All right, one more. Brian, go ahead. Brian.
Could you give us a preview of what you might be talking to leaders of Congress who are expected to come here in the next couple of days? And you've got a very supportive Congress behind you.
They are. They're great. So we have a wonderful Republican Congress. We have a leader that I have a lot of confidence in. I think he's going to be hopefully a great leader, a great speaker. And we have a leader, by the way, in the Senate I think has been great. John Thune has been doing a fantastic job. but it goes through the House first. And the question is whether or not we do the two bills, the one bill. And, look, I can live either way. I like the idea of the one big bill, but I can live either way. But they'll be coming down. The senators also will be coming down. And then ultimately we'll be meeting in the White House in a few weeks. But right now this is the winter season. They sort of call this the winter White House. It was built, I don't know if you know this, Marjorie Meriwether Post and E.F. Hutton built this. It was the greatest of all the estates in our country. And I saved it, and I got a lot of credit for saving it. Most of these big, great houses have been knocked down in Palm Beach, just about all of them, actually. And they, you'd build 10 mansions on one site, but we saved it. But this was built as the Southern White House, and she gave it to the government. And by the way, Jimmy Carter gave it back. He said it's too expensive for the United States. So I didn't realize that.
Real quick, I was just told.
Actually, Jimmy Carter, Nixon was through Watergate. He came down. Nixon came here once, and he thought it was incredible. But he had a thing called Watergate, if anybody remembers that. And so he had other things on his mind, to put it mildly. And Jimmy Carter felt that it was too extravagant for the country. So fortunately for me, he gave it back to the foundation, and I bought it from the foundation.
Mr. President, on reconciliation, some Republicans saying in trade for a massive bill that you and they share the interest in, they want to see big spending cuts. Do you agree with that? And what would
I'm okay with spending. I like spending cuts. I'm on the record for spending cuts. And the debt ceiling was given to us. It shouldn't have been, but it was put in our lap. And what I want in terms of debt ceiling isn't the ceiling. I just don't want to see a default. That's all I want. I never talked about spending more money necessarily than all I want to see is no default, because nobody knows what would happen if there was a default. It could be 1929 and it could be nothing. But that was put into our lap, and it shouldn't have been, but it was. And so we'll handle it. But debt ceiling is not about raising a lot of money. It's really just about extending it. I just want to see an extension.
How much can you do by executive order? Are you planning to do on executive order when it comes to immigration? And how much do you want Congress to tackle this issue? And also on day one,
well, I have the safest border in the history of our country by far. You remember the famous chart that I brought down. I love that chart very much for a lot of reasons. But I have the safest border by far in the history of our country. And when I took it over, it was a mess. Nothing like it is now. This is 10 times worse. When I got elected because of the border the first time, and I think I got elected largely because of the border the third time. And the second time I did equally well. Well, not as well as the last time, but I did very well. And I will say, this was too big to rig. You know the expression? Too big to rig. They couldn't do it. They tried, but they couldn't do it. I didn't get very much from Congress at all. I just said that we're being invaded, and I took the money out of the military. Much of the wall, I built over 500 miles of wall. Much of that wall was built through money that I put into the military. We took it out because we couldn't get things from Congress in those days, and we took it out. And that wall was built largely with money coming from the military. So, very simple. I went to the military, I said, our country is being invaded by very similar, nothing like what's invading our country now. They weren't releasing prisons into our country, and they weren't releasing mental institutions in, but some bad dudes were coming in, right? And I said, our country is being invaded. And I took that money largely from the military. I was sued 9 times by the Democrats in Congress, and I won all those suits. And we ended up building 571 miles of wall. Once that wall was built, they start going around it. So we're going to add another 200. That would have been up in 3 weeks. And then we had a very unfortunate election result. And they said, we don't want to put it up. We'll sell it. And they started selling it for 5 cents on the dollar. What a second. So we'll do this again. I just want to thank everybody very much. I'm just telling you, this will be the golden age of America. This is the golden age of America. We're going to have a great country again. We're a country right now under siege. We have so many different problems, and nobody respects us overseas, but now they do. The Italian prime minister, as you know, came here the other night, just flew in and flew out. She wanted to see me. And great respect is being shown. When I went to the cathedral in France, great respect was shown by the prime minister, the president, by everybody. France was And by the way, I have to say they did a great job in the cathedral. But great respect is being shown to our country again. And we have a great country, but we have to run it properly. It's going to be run properly. We want to get back those hostages for Israel and for us. You know, we do have people that are hostages being held. And I'll just say it again. If this deal's not done with the people representing our nation, by the time I get to office, all hell is going to break out. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, a lot of fake news questions there, some good ones, but you saw President Trump making a lot of headlines today, a number of new things happening, and you saw it right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Absolutely. Very serious about obtaining Greenland and using economic prowess to really help to protect and influence geopolitical politics, which I think is a very smart move at this time.
And let's get right to our sponsors. We're thanking several sponsors today.
And All Family Pharma, our newest sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting. Get that ivermectin, 10% off. It's code RSBN10. That's RSBN10. Allfamilypharma.com/RSBN. If you've been keeping an eye on the news lately, you know that these viral infections have been spreading, especially coming from the People's Republic of China. And if you have not learned anything in the last few years, it's being very good as a proactive citizen to make sure you protect yourself and your family in case if there's anything during flu and cold season, as we've seen in the last several days with bird flu now here in the United States. But here's the problem. Finding a reliable place to get that medication is not very easy. And All Family Pharmaceutical, they are incredible for over 200 medications that can get to you in 2 to 4 days. So just go to allfamilypharma.com/RSBN, 10% off, code RSBN10.
Great sponsor here at Right Side. Let's move on to Republican Red Winery. As you'll see there on the right side of your screen, a number of wines to choose from. Wine for the right side, republicanred.com, and use that discount code RSBN. Some great artist work as well on those bottles. So great sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. We thank them for today's live coverage from Mar-a-Lago in Florida, of course, Palm Beach. And let's also go to mypillow.com, mypillow.com. A lot of great products there, Bobby.
Oh, they're the best. If you want a good night's sleep and to get your day started off right, it's the blankets, the pillows. It's this classic collection sale from our great friend Mike Lindell. Of course, American-made items, and they hire and do everything through their beautiful manufacturing sites in Minnesota and the Great White North. Of course, you can see those deals there on Standards, Queens, and Kings as well. Support Mike Lindell and RSBN. 80% off right now, everything. He is a master marketer.
Sure is. All right, so if you'd like to donate to Right Side Broadcasting Network, all you do is text RSBN to that number you see there on your screen, 801-801. So it's just RSBN to 801-801. Also, we have a newsletter, rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. All sorts of information, live events, special offers. You see that information there on your screen. rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. All right, so let's back up and talk a little bit about today's press conference there at Mar-a-Lago. Of course, President Trump saying, quote, the perception of the whole world is different. He also talked about the Gulf of Mexico being renamed the Gulf of America. Bobby.
An excellent idea. You see, this is, a pressure campaign, peace through strength, that President Trump is putting on foreign adversaries and rivals throughout the region. We have two governments to the north and the south of us, although we are friendly with them, have very left-wing leadership. And quite frankly, you're seeing the Trump effect with tariffs, also securing both borders in the process because we want safety for all of our peoples. And of course, he triumphed with this in the first term, renegotiating NAFTA with the USMCA, a trade deal that really worked out for Canada, the United States, and Mexico alike. I also am very thrilled about Damek and also the CEO there to speak on all of the developments that will be going into major states throughout the Midwest, throughout the Southeast as well. This is President Trump using his business prowess to make sure that there's prosperity for our country.
So that's a $20 billion investment into the United States and possibly more. You know how President Trump is with negotiating skills. Speaking of negotiating and business, possibly acquiring Greenland. Think about it. Don Jr.'s there today. Charlie Kirk, if you've been watching any of the posts on social media, a lot of MAGA reception, a warm reception there in Greenland. And if you want to continue on the geopolitical spectrum, you look at Canada. Justin Trudeau obviously stepping down there. Who knows what will happen when it comes to a 51st state, but still at the end of the day, he is very serious, President Trump is, about acquiring Greenland.
And he did not fall into the narrative of preemptive strikes. Once again, asked that question about preemptively attacking Iran, and President Trump said, I will not share strategic military ideas or plans with anyone, because why would you tell your enemy what you're about to do? Of course, we know his philosophy of peace through strength and really talking and negotiating with anyone, bringing them to the table. We saw that with the little rocket man, Kim Jong-un, and many criticized him over it, but both leaders were able to sit down and actually preserve peace, and that was especially important for friends in the region like the Japanese, the Vietnamese, and the South Koreans especially. So President Trump has a prowess not only for deal making, but again, the common sense, as we highlighted in the pre-show, it is showing once again here as he's about to take that oath of office in 13 days.
And he was not mincing words when it comes to the Middle East, saying, quote, there will be all hell to pay if the hostages aren't released. So that's something he didn't shy away from. And then at the end, the fake news has to ask another question about, to your point, Iran and any kind of military tactics. And interesting that they just want to ask that last question there after the previous press conference where that initially was asked, and President Trump kind of threw off the fake news question. It's that extra lie or false narrative or whatever the left-wing media wants to do to kind of rile up the situation. President Trump not falling for it, and we the people aren't falling for it anymore. So it's great to see that there's conservative media that is covering President Trump like we at Right Side Broadcasting.
Well, he has a very disciplined approach that is going directly to the American people on these crucial issues as we face this peaceful transition of power in the next couple of weeks. And I even thought that was interesting, the choice of words on one reporter's part. I did not catch the name nor the network, but saying that he had harsh words for Jimmy Carter. And he said, look, just quite frankly, I did not agree with the Panama Canal. I thought he was a very good man personally, and we'll be honoring him this week, as he was so significant in his post-presidency in so many different ways, whether it be the Bible study at his Baptist church in Plains, Georgia, or building homes with Habitat for Humanity. Clearly a good man and a good family man, but made some critical errors as president of the United States, and that was literally giving away the Panama Canal for $1. And now the Chinese, in the last 20 years, Chinese Communist Party really taking advantage of those waterways, and that will just not stand anymore. And the use of the Monroe Doctrine, not spoken on today, but President Trump has invoked that idea when the Monroe Doctrine was really pushed in through Congress on behalf of President Monroe's administration. It was to prevent European aristocracies from having trade influences over America and in turn controlling it. This is very similar to the tariff situation we are seeing now, even throughout Central America, South America. President Trump wants to protect American interests economically first and militarily if necessary, and that's why he's the man for this role in our current day.
Exactly, and he's not afraid to use that tariff, to your point there, Bobby. A few programming notes coming up on Thursday. Of course, President Jimmy Carter's funeral will be held. President Trump will be attending that. We'll also have our final episode 7 of The Road to 47. Bobby will be here in the studio, of course, for that coverage. And then moving forward to Inauguration Week, we definitely know the MAGA rally will be on the 19th of January, the night before the inauguration. And then, of course, we'll have inauguration coverage on the 20th. But even leading up earlier that week, or a little bit later in the week, we'll have a lot of live coverage right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to watch President Trump's speech and also the Q&A there with the reporters in Palm Beach, Florida. I'm Matthew Alvarez for Right Side Broadcasting Network. Thank you so much for joining us.
And I'm Bobby McNeely. A pleasure to be with you here, Matthew, in beautiful Auburn, Alabama, as we will say goodbye to you for now, but stay tuned this week for all this excellent coverage.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving us with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss. I'm going to make it your gain. For the first time ever, you get standard classic MyPillows for wholesale prices, only $14.88. I can't believe I'm even saying that. Only $14.88. But it gets even better. For a limited time, I'm going to offer my entire classic collection at wholesale prices. Upgrade to a queen size MyPillow for just $18.88. King size only $1 more. Get my body pillows for $29.88 and multi-use MyPillows for only $9.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on the screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of wholesale pricing for the first time ever on TV, including my standard size MyPillow, only $14.88. They've never been offered this low before. We have limited quantities at this price, so limit's going to be 10, and once they're gone, they're gone.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed, so join us and be part of the right side of history.